little bit. Yeah.
Hello, Cleveland! Hello, Cleveland! Fuck you, Mr. Postman. Fuck off, good. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
I have no idea what's going on.
Fantastic.
I could not start it with that.
That's a Christmas song for the ages.
That was the funniest matchup I've heard this year.
Oh, it was so ridiculous. Oh, man.
Well, hello, Merry Christmas, and welcome down on the tiles, a Music Rewind live stream. We're here with number 7, our special Christmas edition of the show. My name is Steve, regular host of Music Rewind, and I'm here with Michael Borowski, previous guest and Music Rewind regular, and maybe in the future we'll have some more guys joining. Lots of Christmas stuff going on, and maybe some people joining late. We'll see, or it could be the two of us. Could go either way.
Steve, how you doing? Happy
Good.
to be back. And again, I got a little late start, but sometimes the kid takes a while to put down.
Running late on all around tonight, so not a big deal. We got going eventually.
I hope people get to see how festive we are.
Well, yeah.
Like, I hope we got a lot of people watching the
Cubs Christmas Santa hat. Love it.
And a Christmas Vacation ugly sweater.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's my wife's. It is legitimately her favorite movie, not Christmas movie, but #1 movie of all time. Like any movie. So
I wouldn't put it there, but it's definitely up there in my top Christmas movies, and we can go into that later if need be. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But I am starting off the live streams now with a new segment here. We're going to kick these wonderful gatherings off with a trip in the past to talk about a year in music, depending on the live stream number that we are on. So this being out of the tiles number 7, we're going to start with the pivotal Summer of Love of 1967. So a monumental year in music. 1967 saw the debut albums of The Doors and Pink Floyd. Elvis married Priscilla. The first Monterey Pop Festival and The Who were opening for Herman's Hermits on a U.S. tour.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was
how'd you like to open up? How'd you like to be following those guys after they destroy the set?
Right. And they come out with Tommy 2 years later.
Yeah. I mean, to see them in '67, like the energy that those guys had would have been bananas.
Oh, that would be phenomenal. Oh, yeah. But that year, let's see, I've got a couple lists here, which does tie into Music Rewind this year, unintentionally, but it kind of did. But 67 was the release of Sgt. Pepper's, the #1 global album of the year.
Yep.
Followed by Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? The Doors debut album, The Doors. Cream, Disraeli Gears. The Velvet Underground and Nico, also their debut album. The Monkees, more of the Monkees. Love Forever Changes, which came up a lot, and I have no idea what that is.
The band Love?
Is that?
Yes, the band. They have a song. I'm drawing a blank, and I wish Danny was here because it's a really good song. But it's like acoustic, and I'm gonna cheat and kind of look it up because it's gonna drive me nuts.
To round out that
it's
top 10,
interesting.
To round out that top 10, you also got Jimi Hendrix, Axis, Bold as Love, Aretha Franklin's I Never Loved a Man, The Way I Love You, and the Rolling Stones, Between the Buttons.
Now there was Jimmy actually, I think, released 2 records that year.
Well, yeah, he had Are You Experienced, which
right?
was _2 on that, and then
the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour was also out that year.
Yeah. Any guesses on some of the best-selling singles of the year?
Oh God, 67.
based on
I know it.
those
I
albums.
mean, I know it's not it wouldn't be my stuff, but like probably Respect
That's
by
in there.
Aretha.
Yep.
Uh, maybe I don't know, the Bernadette, Four Tops. I'm trying to go for R&B hits from that year.
You got Procol Harum as #1 single, A Wider Shade of
You
Pale.
know, I was gonna say that, but yeah, that's a great song.
That's a beautiful
I mean,
song.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that tune. Love the lyrics because they make no sense.
Yeah, I think 1967 was also probably, not saying it was the first year probably of LSD, but it was probably the most popular drug at the time in 1967.
Well, then you got it's a couple of Beatles tracks, the All You Need Is Love, Hello Goodbye, and Penny Lane, those singles they popped out there before
Yeah.
Sgt. Pepper's. A couple of Monkeys tracks, I'm a Believer and Daydream Believer. The Box Tops, The Letter.
Yep. Brown Eyed Girl?
Not in the top
Morrison?
10. It wasn't one of the
Oh,
top 10.
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, you got the
There is a
Scott
great-
McKenzie San Francisco song, the hippie song.
Yes, with Flowers in Your Hair.
Yep.
Yeah. That's, you know what, Steve? That's I think that's probably on your favorite soundtrack, the Forrest Gump.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever heard it. But you've also got Piper at the Gates of Dawn,
Yes.
that year. It's not going to make any top selling lists, but I mean, it's personal to me on that one.
No, but wasn't See Emily Play like a top hit in the UK though? And I know that's not on that record, but it was like the single before the record came out.
And Arnold Lane.
And Arnold Lane, yeah. Because those two weren't on that album, which is
they were on re-releases at least.
Yeah, because I remember because the big box set that had, and I think you probably have it too, the one that like if you put it together, it makes Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, that one, because that's got the early singles on there. It's like a whole separate disc of.
Yeah, it's a great disc of weirdness.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, like, it's too bad they mess with that man who. I know. Yeah, I know the rumor is like everybody slipped acid into him almost every day. But I know he was also bipolar, so that, I mean, drugs like that really don't help. But what could have been? What an interesting
I think that's
guy.
really kind of what it boils down to. Is you had a gentleman with extreme but psychological issues as a baseline, and then you throw in drugs and excess and a little bit of stardom. I mean, it was just a setup for failure at that point.
Yeah. I mean, but like, what a charismatic front man though. Like, honestly, like some of the videos I've seen and some of the things I've read, he was like the star, it's similar to, it's kind of weird. I never thought of this before, but when Andrew Wood, he was the lead singer of Mother Love Bone. He was just like a star. He was the it guy. He had the it factor as a lead singer, and then he died right as their album came out. And then Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard, Mike McCready got together and created Pearl Jam like a year later. And it's interesting to see, what would have happened, because you think about Pink Floyd, he's on one or two more songs in maybe the second record.
Yeah, Saucer Full of Secrets has at least one, the Jug Band Blues.
Right. And then
that's a stretch.
Right. And then he's gone. And then it's a completely different band and an experiment for years. And then they just, break out with Dark Side and, Wish You Were Here and Animals and.
Well, maybe even express their own guilt of, number one, booting him from the band. Could they have done more? Mm-hmm. But then using that grief, they wrote Dark Side and Wish You Were Here.
Right.
Based on that grief and regret. So then they became, superstars on top of it. And they've been public about that. Like, was it all the right thing? And, great music came out of it, but what about sin?
Right. Yeah, and it's too bad. I mean, he wasn't like a great guitar player or anything. Like, so you probably needed David Gilmour in the band, anyways. You know, like to round out your sound. But like just the front man and how charismatic the guy was.
Right.
The things I've read about him, he's just like he was like one of the coolest guys you could have ever met. Kind of weird, obviously. But
Well, we've all known those guys. They're just the center of the room. No. I mean, if you ask them to do something, they're not do anything. They're completely, useless from a talent perspective of, they couldn't change a tire, but damn it, they're the center of attention in every room they walk into.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, that crazy story of when they were recording Wish You Were Here, and an overweight bald guy walked in and just sat down in the recording room. And I don't know what song they were recording at the time. I mean, you could say it was Shine On or Wish You Were Here or whatever, but it was during that album recording.
3 out of the 5 songs are about him.
Exactly. But it was like a shock to him. Like, who's that guy? And then someone said, that's Sid. And he was still lost. He couldn't communicate. He was just like a zombie, and then he left. So I was just, that's a wild story.
Yeah. It's such if you played that album for somebody who really only knows the classic rock hits and didn't know the history of the band, they'd be like, there's no way this is this band. Like, such a different sound. And I mean, that whole year though is like such a different sound. Like Strawberry Alarm Clocks, Incense and Peppermint.
Yeah. Well, and
like
then
super psychedelic.
I have a list here of say other notable releases. You've got Donovan, Mellow Yellow, The Birds, Younger Than Yesterday, Jefferson Airplane, Surrealistic Pillow.
White Rabbit, man. Like Alone.
Grateful Dead, self-titled. Country Joe and the Fish, Electric Music for the Mind and Body. Big Brother and Holding Company. Little Janice on that one.
Janice.
Alice's Restaurant, Arlo.
Was that Alice? Was that 67?
Apparently, according to the internet.
We listened to it, I think, 3 times on Thanksgiving. On our, we definitely listened to it on the ride home to the Valley, and then I had it playing in the car, like when we were going to the different houses on Thanksgiving. And my wife's like, "Why do you play that?" I go, "Because it's a Thanksgiving song. You play, you play the turkey song. They want to hear Thanksgiving song by Adam Sandler. I want to hear Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie."
I played the Thanksgiving song for my kids like on YouTube, and they just stared at me like, "What the hell is this, Dad?" It was lost on them.
I wish turkey only cost a nickel. Just a great song. I mean, obviously you have, The Last Waltz too, but those 2 songs are just the Thanksgiving songs. Like, it's just such a ramble of insanity. Alice's Restaurant,
Yeah, but it's a story that
is a fun song.
The chorus that you hear at the beginning and the end only. But I know the story front to back, and it's just wonderful to hear it played. And I know he did several re-recordings of it years later, and they don't really hit as hard as the first one to me. It's just it's an honest song, and it tells a story ish. Once you get to
and how much was that was ad-libbed? Like, or did he come in sitting down like ready to rock on that? I mean, obviously the chorus he had written.
I think he wrote it, but it was his story. I mean, like it literally happened to him with the whole picture 8x9 color glossy photos with the circles and arrows on the back of each one, telling them what each one was, and the trial with the CNI dog, and then the blind justice. I love it.
Yeah. Then I saw that your name on the bottom of a garbage pile. Well, I made sure I put that there, sir. That's where I wanted to leave it.
Then getting going to the draft house and having at Whitehall Street and getting poked and prodded and assigned to Group W.
Yeah. I mean, just like it's clever. Like the first time you hear it, you're kind of like, what the hell is going on here? And the more you listen to it and realize like how it's just like a wild ass story. And if you go into it like, okay, it's just like it's like a story like you would hear some rummy tell at the bar. Like, I got this
Yeah.
story about this time, and it's 20 minutes later, and you're like, what the hell just happened to me? You know? And that's kind of what it is. And
Yep.
and you got the people laughing in the crowd with them and everything. It's great. Especially I wonder if that was the first time he played that. You know
That
what I mean?
could have been.
Like, could you imagine being in the audience going, "What the fuck is this guy still going on with this damn shit?" And, like, you could go get a beer, come back, and be like, "All right, well, I guess we're still at Alice's restaurant."
Oh, I like he plays with the crowd at the end too. He's like, just I want to hear y'all when it comes back around on the guitar. And they sing the chorus, and he's like, that was terrible.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I mean, it's so funny because like I said, I played it for my wife first time, and I was talking to her dad, and Marissa was like, "Dad, did you ever hear of this Alice's Restaurant?" And he looked at me and he smiled. He goes, "Did you play that for Marissa?" And he was like, he goes, "You're evil." And my dad said the same thing because I have it on vinyl, and it's my dad's. And he's just like, "Oh, Alice's Restaurant, what a great vinyl." It's the whole first half.
Well, it was always played on the classic rock stations back home. And, my dad, my cousin Alan, they would make sure that, got turned up whenever it was at the family event. All the aunts would roll their eyes like, "Oh, this again."
Right. I'm in the it's not classic rock, but it's 93 XRT
Oh,
in Chicago. There was a DJ in the city. His name was Lynn Bramer, and rest in peace. He was the voice of like Cubs opening day, like at Yachtskis, and he loved the Cubs and he loved music, and he would like introduce big bands all the time at shows I'd go to. And he was the guy who brought it to XRT, and he would play it at 7 o'clock in the morning in entirety, and then like noon or 11, and then again at like 5 or 6, like 3 times, and he would make them play it. And it was just, I remember the first time hearing that he would do that. And the guy's great. Like he's really missed in Chicago because he was XRT like for a lot of people.
To clear out the rest of 1967 here, I've got the Grammy winners for the year.
Oh,
and so album of the year, Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, I mean, I know you did a whole episode of Sgt. Pepper's, and I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's not my favorite Beatles record." Blah 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 blah. To say that Sgt. Pepper's like did not, I mean, the stuff that they did in that studio without Pro Tools, without 16-track taping,
Yeah.
they were cutting stuff with the razor blade to like make those noises and all that stuff. It's insane what that record did, like for music itself. So, I mean, no dying on a hill or anything, Steve, but that is the record of the year. There's no way it's not. I mean, I love Hendrix and the Doors and Rolling Stones, but Sgt. Pepper's changed everything. That's just like my opinion, man. But
no, I completely agree, and it's definitely one of the few times the Grammy was properly awarded.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite amazing what they did with the equipment they had, and I know the Beatles had the clout and the money at the time to do whatever the hell they wanted to, which helps. They can go to George Martin and be like, "Oh, I don't want this. I want the 24-track mechanism that's down the road." Well, it's not here. I don't care. Bring it here.
Right.
They had the ability to do that, and it shows. And that's, I mean, they were firing at all cylinders as far as I'm concerned. Creativity, working together, even working solo on, because some of those tracks are definitely solo tracks. But it was just that was a special moment in time on that one. And you're right, it changed everything from then on.
Yeah, and I mean, in a little bit, it changed them too, because I think it was that their first studio record that they did not tour on,
Well,
right?
this
Or was that Revolver?
they lost the manager. What was his name?
Brian Epstein.
Epstein.
I think he died either that year or like the year after.
Yeah, it was right at this album, and so that's where they changed because there was no one to corral them.
Yeah,
anymore.
and I mean, and you could see I mean, you could see the move that way. Like you go to Rubber Soul, and the joke is always like Rubber Soul is when they start smoking dope. And then Revolver is a little bit of acid, and then Sergeant Pepper's is 1,000% acid, and like mushrooms, like you can tell, they're and the story is they're dentists.
I would say the 1,000% would be Magical Mystery Tour because that.
Well, right. I mean, it's that same year, but that's for sure. Like with the Blue Meanies and all that shit. That's a whole.
Yeah. Magical Mystery Tour is a different conversation. But then say Song of the Year, we've got Up, Up and Away by the Fifth Dimension. Best New Artist is Bobby Gentry. Okay.
He's
I couldn't tell you.
It'll drive me nuts, but
Best
I've
Country and Western is Song is Jackson by Johnny Cash and June Carter.
Oh, wonderful song.
Absolutely. Best Score from a Cast album, Cabaret.
Cabaret. All right.
I don't know if they still do this, but there was 2 categories for best album cover, one graphic arts and one photography. And graphic arts was Sgt. Pepper's. Photography was Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits.
The Greatest Hits.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. His Greatest Hits one was in 1967.
Right.
Like, what? I mean, he came out with the record that year. I think it was like Nashville Skyline or something.
John Wesley Harding.
And I think, the big single off of that, like I'm trying not to cheat looking at my phone because I have my, top, I have my own playlist, that, Steve, of every year. And that was it wasn't like the Lady Laid voice yet, but I think it was coming, where he's like kind of like the sexy crooner in that, and not as, all right, now I just saw it. All Along the Watchtower was on that record.
Oh, that's on John Wesley Harding?
Yeah, and then some guy made it way more popular. That's for sure.
Yeah, some up-and-comer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Best R&B solo, Aretha Franklin with Respect, and best R&B group, Sam and Dave with Soul Man. Yes.
Oh, what a great song.
So for music, 1967, phenomenal year.
Oh,
absolutely.
No doubt.
And to close that out, the people born in 67 were our high school years. Yeah. So check out this.
Yeah.
list.
I saw Danny's text earlier.
Yeah. Danny wants to make it known. Kurt Cobain, born in 1967. Mm-hmm. Then you also got Dave Matthews, R. Kelly, Zach Wilde, Billy Corgan.
Zach Wilde is that old, huh?
Yeah.
I thought he was.
I would have thought he was older. Actually, I thought Zach Wilde was
really.
Older. John Barrowman, John Popper, Liz Phair, Master P.
Damn, Master P. He's not alive though anymore, right? Master P.
He is. If he died, I don't know about it.
I thought he died, but maybe I was thinking of something else. But Liz Phair, though. All right. Yeah. I love Liz Phair from Chicago.
Tim McGraw and Faith Hill.
No way. I didn't know they were the same age.
Same age.
Wow. Damn.
That's Noel Gallagher.
Really? Noel Gallagher's the same age as Kurt Cobain?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. If you think about it, it's just because their album was later. That was 94, their first record.
Definitely, maybe.
Yeah, so that's I would have thought he'd be younger, but I mean Liam's a couple years younger, so maybe that's
Noel the older one.
Yeah, Noel's the older one.
Heavy D.
Heavy D and the Boys. All
Yeah,
right.
haven't heard that one in a while.
Hey, what about the Boys? I wonder how old they were. Like, were they the same time or?
Heavy D died though. I don't remember how long ago.
He
but
did die. Yeah. I think Master P's dead too, but
Dave Navarro, Juliana Hatfield.
I thought Dave
Sibley.
Navarro would have been older. Honestly, because I think Perry Farrell's older though, and they're in the same group. I mean, they were in Jane's Addiction. Because think about it, like Jane's Addiction's first record, like was in the like 85, 86
What's that?
or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
think
know they
their
went
very
that deep
first
into the
record.
80s. Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously Nirvana's first record was 89, but oh, man, I'm kind of some of these people. I'm really surprised with that they were born in 67.
Lane Staley.
That's even more. Well, no, that first record was 1990. So
This one surprised me though. Jeff Tweedy. I expected him to be younger.
You know, Steve, I mean, I'm sure. I think Steve or Luke probably talked about it in his record. His record that they were Uncle Tupelo before, and so like
Sure. Oh yeah, I remember that.
they had 4 records out, and I think that first one was like 87. Yeah, so I mean, it makes sense. It's just you think about like how popular Wilco was and when it was popular, like 2001, 2002, when they really kind of got big.
Yeah.
And by that time, Lane's dead, Kurt's dead,
Yeah, of this list, Dave Matthews would have been the only one kind of still popular at that time.
And I knew Dave got a late start, because he was a bartender at UVA's campus in Charlottesville. And he just kind of played around in the bars and the fraternities and stuff. And then somebody caught him. He used to just be a solo guy. I used to be bigger into Dave in college, I think, like everybody else. And I used to highlight my hair too, though, Steve. So, I mean, we can't really say what happened.
Why did you stop?
I'm missing a whole chunk of it. That's why.
Harry Connick Jr. One of my personal favorites there.
Wow, I thought Harry was younger, but I mean, he looks younger though.
He's been playing in the bars in New Orleans since he was a kid. So
right, I think that's what it. Because he's just been. He just looks younger than those guys. So too, I think he's a little more clean living than those guys though.
Well, when was When Harry Met Sally? Because he kind of blew up with that soundtrack. Was that late 90s? Or was that 80s?
I think late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah. Okay, late 80s. Yeah. Okay, yeah, late 80s. So that's when he took off with those covers.
And he was in Hope Floats, right? That was him with Sandra Bullock.
Maybe.
Right?
I don't know.
It was a romantic comedy that he was.
Memphis Belle. Yeah. Check out Memphis Belle. He's one of the guys on that flight World War II bomber movie.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Here's one for you. Matthew and Gunnar Nelson.
All right. Well,
2 more. Scott Weiland to round out a lot of the.
Jesus.
Yeah, all in 1 year. They're only missing Chris Cornell.
Good Lord, where's Chris and Ed? Well, Ed turned 60 this year, so Ed is older than Kurt.
And finally, Mr. Robert Van Winkle, Vanilla Ice.
Really?
Yep.
I think that seems right. You know what? Speaking of him, real quick, do you know that he played halftime of the Lions Bills game? Came out, and the only reason I know he played it is because I was watching. Yes, I was watching the football game on Saturday, and they come back from commercial, and Joe Buck and Troy are laughing like their asses off. I don't understand this. I'm like, I wanted to see this game because it looked like a game, and they go, well, and our guy Robert Van Winkle was, and then they started talking about, and Joe Buck starts singing and kind of rapping Ice Ice Baby. And I thought, I hope someone records this and like uses it somehow. I mean, great. I'm not a big Joe Buck guy, but to listen to like a broadcaster do that. I was dying. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Especially the fact that like Troy Aikman just seems like such a square, and and so does Joe Buck. And the fact that they're just both like they're jazzed, they are pumped up for Vanilla Ice playing at halftime. I'm like, first of all, how do you get a stage up there quick enough? Because regular season halftimes are only like 10 minutes long,
and they're not televised.
Uh-uh.
So it's just for the crowd there,
right? And he's not from Detroit, like so.
Yeah, isn't he from like Miami?
Well, that the Ice Ice Baby video always had him driving, and he had Miami Hurricane gear on.
Yeah, A4A,
And
Beach 1 Avenue. That's all Miami lingo
yes,
there.
yeah, girls are hot wearing less than bikinis.
Yeah.
Joe Buck didn't rep that part though. It was
gunshot rings out like a bell.
God bless him. He's man.
All right, well, moving on from Vanilla Ice. So Christmas season. Let's talk some Christmas music.
Let's do it.
What did you grow up with? That's kind of
like Christmas songs.
What built your what Christmas music was in your history?
Oh God. You know what? It's kind of funny. I want to say there's a lot of Johnny Mathis because my grandma loved Johnny Mathis.
All right, yeah.
So Johnny Mathis Christmas, we always played because we go to her house on Christmas Eve. My dad's mom, my grandma Dolores, and she would they play like the cassettes of like Johnny Mathis and maybe Dolly and Willie Nelson, but like my parents were like my mom and dad were just more like traditional. Like they would play the stuff that hits that are on the radio. Like it's interesting because I almost feel like Christmas music kind of like kicked up a lot more like in the 90s than like growing
Mariah,
up. Yeah, Mariah like really kind of turned everything on, and then everybody was like, well, now I want to do a Christmas album.
Doug chimed in with Charlie Pride,
yeah. And so it's I would like it's weird because like growing up Catholic, like Christmas Eve, is
Christmas at Ground Zero.
We always went to midnight mass, and so like most of the Christmas songs were the stuff from mass that we would always hear.
Okay.
And that was always played. And then I would say like the movies and like the movies that we would watch and the songs that would be in that. Like you and I spoke about the other day, like Mavis singing Christmas Vacation at the beginning of Christmas Vacation. My family would watch that the Saturday before Christmas every year until like I left and moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
We'd have, when we were older, we'd have drinks and we'd have food but we would sit and like everybody would quote the whole movie. You never hear the movie, you just quoted it the whole time.
I remember seeing that in theaters, and just the initial animation at the beginning I thought was just fantastic. At 9 years old, it was great.
Yeah,
even if I didn't get every joke in the movie at the time.
No, you get them later.
It improves with age.
Hey, kids, look a deer. And that night was my kid's first viewing of Christmas Vacation. I know you can come at me, parents. I know my kid's, a little over a year old, but we were like, we kind of had like our own little Christmas here tonight because we're leaving. And so this is our Christmas Eve. And then tomorrow's kind of like our Christmas Day with him. And so I was like, we got to watch Christmas Vacation. And so we sat and watched that, like at least the beginning. But like, to me, that's like that. And then I think my Christmas music expanded more because I am more of a Grinch up until about a week out. Like I am not a Christmas person until like December 17th. Like then I turn it on.
Not me. The November 1st, I got Christmas tunes playing in my car. They're in my headphones. If I've got a speaker in the house, they're already playing. Christmas music has always been very special to me, and there's just, I know Luke would disagree. Sorry, Luke, out there. But
yeah, where are you, Luke?
I don't know. There's a certain feel about it, and it's always it hits you right in every heartstring, even the bad ones. I mean, they still kind of hit, and I remember my grandmother listening to Jim Neighbors albums.
Oh. He was on the other day on XM, and it was so funny, Mark. Every once in a while, like, to get our kid into his like high chair, like we give him the remote, like, and the one day he just messed with it to a point, and all of a sudden, like, Gomer Pyle's on, and we were driving home for Thanksgiving, and I told Marissa, I was like, "You hear this guy singing?" And she's like, "I don't know who that is." I go, "You know that show that he had on, that guy with that like dorky voice, kind of a weird guy?" She goes, "There's no way that's a guy who sings that guy's singing right now. It's crazy." Jim Neighbors, what a great voice. It's insane that he has a great voice.
Oh yeah. I mean, I could listen to him all the time, and it brings back straight memories of my grandmother, Grazier in McNabb, and the whether it's the standards that he would sing or even some show tunes like The Impossible Dream, just huge voice, and then you hear him play Gomer Pyle. It's like that can't be the same guy.
Yeah, it's crazy. That to me it's one of those things, like there's some people sometimes where they sing or they talk and and you cannot believe that they are that's their voice,
right?
Like a singing voice. It's crazy.
Doug, I didn't know that Krista's sister had a Christmas album. That's a new one for me. I do want to throw some recommendations out there, though. Merry Xmas Volume 1 and Volume 2. Find those albums. They're fantastic. It's all the first one. They're created by Steve Vai. And
okay. All right.
My guitar playing roommate in the Army, turned me on to that. And so you got like Steve Vai playing the Christmas song. You've got Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Kenny Wayne Shepherd playing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Hotai playing Merry Christmas, the War is Over. And you've got just these fantastic versions of that. And then a couple years later, they came out with a Volume 2, and it's just as good, if not better, as the first volume. And those two are just mainstays for me all Christmas long.
Yeah. Now, I will say there are, like, and I gave you like my songs that I really dig.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like some hokey stuff. I'm more like the hokey, like Christmas movies, like the end of Scrooged, cry every time. It's a Wonderful Life. The end of It's a Wonderful Life. I only have to watch the last 15 minutes. And because I love that. I love It's a Wonderful Life because my dad is George Bailey. Like, that's
I never thought of that. Yeah.
My dad is the guy who gave people loans and like didn't screw them over during the housing market and never like did balloon loan. And and like people always see my dad and they're like, "Oh, thanks for that," and all that. And it's like, as a kid growing up, seeing that
loans.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, and so like at the end of It's a Wonderful Life, I mean, when they sing "Auld Lang Syne," I'm already like, the minute like he realizes that he, I need these people in my life. I want to live. I mean, usually on Christmas Eve, there's a little extra pep in my step because that's one of my favorite days to drink and go out and have a good time. There's a little extra, little extra heart feelings on that one. But that one is a great song to me. I just love that cast like singing that, because that to me that's just Christmas to me. I don't know that one. And then
as long as you don't think too hard about the unrestricted Sun Pride loans that dude's giving out and what's going to happen to all those guys in the future.
Well,
don't think too hard about it.
I mean, it's all those garlic eaters.
Risky there, George.
It's all those garlic eaters. Like, the first time First time I watched that movie, Marissa, she goes, "What does that mean?" I go, "Italians," and she goes, "That's racist." I go, "Yeah, that was kind of the point. Like he was an asshole. Like the whole point of Mister that's his whole point." But I will like, and then even though I know like at the end of Scrooge, like I know it's not a Christmas song, but when he has everybody singing "Put a Little Love in Your Heart," like that's awesome. Like that is like I know it's not spontaneous because obviously it's in the script and everything.
Right.
I mean, he does go off script like at the end where he's talking to the crowd and everything. But that's the stuff I really love, those type of moments for music, and when it ties with the movie that's heartfelt and all that jazz. But then I do like give me Christmas All Over, Tom Petty. Give me, I could sit and list all the ones that like I really like that are songs that I could listen to in like February or like August and be like, yeah, I could really listen to that song then.
Yeah, I start early, but I do not go into January with it because I do tire of it, and I keep it to the 2 months. I don't
See,
know.
I'm more the other way. I'd rather, because January sucks, man. In Chicago, it's dark and cold, and I won't even let like Marissa take the tree down. Like I'm like, let's just keep it up, like because it's it's nice. It keeps you like kind of festive for a little bit longer, and then it's like, all right, well, it's Three Kings Day. It's time to take it down because that's the rule. You can keep your Christmas stuff up until Three Kings Day.
What is Three Kings Day? I don't know that.
That is, it's when the three kings actually came to visit Jesus. They don't come visit him actually on the 25th. Well, first of all,
I was reliably informed by Monty Python that it happens
all at the same time.
Yes.
Right. However, according to the Bible, the three kings technically do not come until like a couple days, maybe like a week or two later. First of all, Jesus wasn't really actually born on the 25th. It was a whole pagan thing, that they took. But hey, man, we're not going to get there and go on that. But so that I think it was from a movie. I want to say like it might have been like some New Jersey movie or like New York movie, and they're like, they still got their stuff up, and it's after Three Kings Day. They can't sit and have that. Like they were mad that they had their Christmas stuff up.
I've never heard of Three Kings Day, so that'll be new to me. The old movies were big in my house. It's a Wonderful Life. That's always a go-to, and Jimmy Stewart in that movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the White Christmas, that
see, I hate that movie.
I love it, and I blame my dad, but I do love that movie. And even to a lesser extent, Holiday Inn. If you ever have the,
I don't think I've seen that one. I stayed at one.
It's a commitment. If you watch Holiday Inn, it's where White Christmas originated. The Irving Berlin made both movies. They're actually both filmed at the same inn in like New England, wherever it was. But it's in black and white, and the premise is Bing Crosby's character is going to open up this kind of inn where they celebrate 10 holidays a year, and they put on a show. So people will stay there, and it's a big show, like a Broadway level show. And they struggle on some of the holidays. Like obviously there's some fancy ones, like, there's Valentine's Day or 4th of July. 4th of July one's fantastic because you got Fred Astaire doing a really cool firecracker dance. But, and it all leads up to Christmas. But there's this whole thing with Abraham Lincoln's birthday where Bing Crosby comes out in blackface, and it's
what they pick as a day is Abraham Lincoln's birthday.
And they're, I mean, the lyrics and the sentiment is all fine and dandy, and it's all, because this takes place in like, I'd say the 30s. But the Bing Crosby in full blackface is, and they can't take it out of the movie because it's an actual plot point.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, yeah, that's way off track. But man, it's
man.
But it's jarring because it comes out of nowhere.
Jeez, I will say this. To go back to It's a Wonderful Life. You know how like if your wife or your girlfriend and significant other, you always have like your top 5, like, desert island, like people, like celebrity, like free pass. Um,
Go Patty Duke.
my, my, my number one of all time is Donna Reed from It's a Wonderful Life.
That's I don't want to say Patty Duke.
Number one, Donna Reed. And at first, when I was dating Marissa, she goes, "Who is this Donna Reed?" I go, first of all, she's been dead for like 20 years. I go, this movie's from the 40s. Like, I was like, Donna Reed. I was like, and this is the only movie. I go, it's in black and white. I just like, man, she's just to me, ever since I was a kid, I was just in love with her.
Just tell her it's Samwise Gamgee's mom. Sean Astin's mom.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, how old is he? What is he, like in his 50s?
I would no, he's got to be in his 60s by now.
Oh, well, I guess Rudy would be.
Yeah. I mean, you get a good 10 to 15 years on us.
That would make sense. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Goonies.
For a while. Yeah. Well, he was. I mean, yeah, he was a little older than us in Goonies, but
yeah,
I didn't think he was that much older. Wow.
That's a good 10 years. I mean,
all right. Well, I didn't know if you were going to get to like some obscure Christmas songs that you enjoy.
Well, I do have to pitch the ultimate Christmas album, which is Christmas Island by Jimmy Buffett. Yes.
Come on.
Yes. No, it is a fantastic album.
No, it doesn't matter. It's Jimmy Buffett. I'm sure Jimmy Buffett is a saint. I'm sure the songs,
I'll say this, half the songs are about a sailor's life in Christmas away from home. And I was given that album by my dad when I was off in the Army in Hawaii, actually. And, where you hear Mele Kalikimaka all day, every day, the entire month of December, and you just want to strangle every little, Santa on a surfboard you see when you hear that song. But it hit home because, man, Christmas in the Army, you want to talk about drinking. It's ugly.
Oh, I could only imagine.
The entire month of December, you have like half days. This is all pre 9/11. So we were unregulated, you could say. I mean, just the entire month of December, there were times that, I mean, you were just way too far gone by like 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, because why not? You have nothing to do. Your family's not there. And we were all stationed in Hawaii. So it was like 2 months paycheck to fly home. It was just unrealistic. Yeah. And there was a ton of drinking, and that album really, really hit you in the heartstrings when he's talking about I'll Be Home for Christmas and other versions in other songs. Even Christmas Island, the song itself. I like that album almost better than all Jimmy Buffett regular albums. And I know you guys aren't Jimmy Buffett fans, but he knocked it out on that one. I love that one.
All right, I'll give you that. I'm only giving you for that, though. I still won't listen to it.
And yes, his version is better than John Lennon's.
Merry Christmas, the war's over?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yoko just ruins it for me.
That's the only time she can sing good. She doesn't scream.
No, it's not
There's
good.
no primal screams.
It's not good.
The kids show up. It's great. What?
She can say hi.
Sorry. She's wrapping all my niece and nephew's presents for me. She loves to wrap gifts, so I cannot stop her. And so she was asking how much the gift card was for my nephew. In case he's listening, I'm not going to say. But yeah, all right, I'll give you. I've never been like a full Christmas album guy, though. Like if it's everybody, like a bunch of people doing it, like a bunch of different artists, different songs, but like just like a full album, like there's even Pearl Jam wrote a Christmas song. And
Oh, really? I didn't
yes,
know
it is called "Let Me Sleep, It's Christmas Time," and it's Eddie Vedder and I think it's Stone or Jeff, or one of the guys, and they're drunk. They drank a bunch of wine in Italy, and they recorded themselves like making this song, and basically it's like, "Let me sleep, it's Christmas time," and so it's just so yes, even the grunge men like even do it, but I will say, and I don't know if you know this or not, like maybe you do, but that Horatio Sands and Jimmy Fallon,
the SNL skit.
right, the SNL
Yeah.
skit, that Julian Casablancas from The Strokes covers that song, and it is fantastic. It is just like it's a full like he like went into the studio and like made the song. I mean, those guys just dicked around. Like Sirius XM
the
has a
skit's
Jimmy.
hilarious, and over the years, they kept redoing it. I always thought that was a great running joke, but that's the only versions I've ever heard.
Do you know? I mean, I don't know if you know the story. The only reason I know the story is Jimmy Fallon has his own Christmas channel on Sirius XM during the holidays, and he talks about the song where Horatio Sands like had like the lyrics or something. He had the ding 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 ding, and he just kept playing it. And Fallon was like, Jesus, like they're in the writer's room till like 3 a.m. And he's like, you know what, let's just write lyrics to it. And he wrote lyrics to it, and they fell asleep and they're like, whatever. And like they woke up and that apparently they may have like mentioned it to Lauren and everybody that they had a song. And they just put him out there to do it. And that's why like Fallon like is breaking when he's singing and like
because he never breaks
like,
on stage.
Yeah, Fallon was the fucking worst. God, that's honestly, Steve, I could sit and like have a pod. Me and Danny love SNL. We've been watching it. I've never stopped watching SNL. Like I could sit and just talk about the guys who ruin skits by laughing on them because they always ruin. Like when people break, like a guy like Bill Hader breaking when he's doing Stefan, that's different because I don't know if you know the story about Stefan,
I know the character, but I don't know a story behind it or nothing. No, yeah.
So John Mulaney is the guy who wrote the skit for that. Like he wrote the stuff for it, and they would go through dress rehearsal and everything and do everything, and then Mulaney would throw a different joke in at the end, like in the middle, like that he didn't practice on the cue card, and that's why he would tuck his hands. It's because he was trying not to crack. It was not like something that Stefan the character did. He did it because he didn't want to laugh in front of the things because he wanted to be serious. And Mulaney just messed with them. And like that's the brilliance of John Mulaney as like a writer. But off topic.
But there's on that though, there are times where the breaking to me adds to the skit, like whether it's the more cowbell. I mean, all the ones with Will Ferrell, where Will Ferrell never breaks, but the people around him are just.
When David Spade and Christina Applegate break for the first Matt Foley skit.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's one of the best times that they break because neither David. I'm sorry, David Spade. I call him David Foley. David Spade, like, man, just like he knows like Chris is gonna go for it. Yeah. But when he hits that table, it must have made such a sound that he was just like, holy shit, like he really did it.
Well, to me, what makes it when someone is breaking, but you still got the center of the skit, like Chris Farley in that one. Chris Farley never breaks. He's still going full steam ahead. And then when you've got the cowbell scene, Will Ferrell never breaks, where you got Jimmy Fallon behind him chewing on a drumstick, trying not to laugh. Or there's that one
Debbie Downer.
There's the one. It's Will Ferrell. He's got the tiny cell phone.
And he's like a German.
Yeah.
Or when the best Will Ferrell, where I still don't know how he didn't break, is like it was a skit after 9/11, and he wore the because it was like you can wear. We said we could wear anything for American flags, and he had the like American flag like
the Speedo.
Speedo on,
I
and
remember
nobody else.
I remember the
breaks.
image.
And no one else breaks, and he puts that leg up, and I'm like, I don't know how anybody like doesn't just lose their shit, like, because it was so ridiculous. Now, people, I want to know, like, it's like, Jesus, man, it is. And then I will say there are some Christmas skits from SNL to bring us back to Christmas, like the sweaty balls, like Christmas, like how. The three of them, like that's how good those three were, like actors. That none of them, like the stuff they were saying, like didn't make sense that you could actually get away with it. Like, there's another one from SNL that brings me back to music right here. Christmas Time for the Jews with the claymation, the SNL skit. It's it kind of looks like the California Raisin skit, like claymation,
Okay.
but.
Yeah,
And
I'm not familiar with the Christmas Time for the Jews.
It's called Christmas Time for the Jews, and it's everybody's like at their house celebrating Christmas, and all the Jewish folk in like New York or wherever they're at, like are out like watching movies and going to Chinese restaurants, and because they don't give a shit that it's Christmas, but it's like a whole song, and it's kind of like a not Pointer Sisters, but like the Staple Sisters type voices singing the song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all claymation. You got to check it out. But that's another Christmas song, a Christmas song, but another song like that. And then you have Hanukkah song from Seinfeld, Sandler. I mean, when he originally put that on SNL, like it was great, but like he was like, he said, don't do drugs and don't do that. And then when he does his one on his album, he's like, smoke marijuana and all that stuff. It's great. That's why I like those offbeat ones.
Let's see. Anything more to mention on Christmas music? Shout out to the Chipmunk album. I also grew up with that one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I remember. Oh, wait. Luke said he fell asleep. Tell him to come on. Tell him we started late.
Yeah, Luke.
He just texted us. I will say this one, and this is a shout out to my cousin Brian, because when we would always sing it walking over to my grandma's house. Grandma got ran over by a reindeer. Like, what a dumb song! It's so dumb.
Doug mentioned that one.
God, but that's one is the one I remember, like, because my grandmother lived next door to us, and so like, but we'd always forget something, and so my cousin and I would like have to go get stuff. Just great Christmas time. And Notre Dame won, Steve, in case you were.
It played in Indiana, weren't they?
Yeah, 27-17. They the first play of the Notre Dame drive. First quarter, 98-yard touchdown run. He wasn't even touched.
My brother told me about that. Yeah,
wild.
Yeah,
my buddy Eric Carls is there. It's cold in that stadium, man. I tell you, I've been there in the cold.
Whew. Were they playing at South Bend?
They're in South Bend, and it's a night game.
No. Yeah.
And that lake effect snow coming over from Lake Michigan is no bueno.
It's like Jamal's trying to join. We may get Jamal and Luke in here.
Steve, what's going on, man?
Hey, there he is. Welcome back.
Hey, appreciate it.
Just in time to chime in on the back end of Christmas music, which we could throw to you. What do you listen to at this time of year?
Oh man, this house cannot escape Mariah Carey. And I'm gonna tell you, it's like the bane of my existence. At this point, it's just like a running joke in the house. Like, it's like borderline torture, and some old school Nat, and that's really about it. Whitney Houston gets a lot of play in here, so that's what we got going on.
There's some great Whitney Houston Christmas songs. And she like pulls her voice back on a lot of them until she like really needs to hit it. Like she's like real. That's what's great about Whitney Houston's voice. That's a whole other conversation. But like she can sing and not like over sing, and then when she needs to like just kick it, it's beautiful, man. It really is.
Yeah, you listen to today's pop singers, then you go back and hear a couple of Whitney Houston songs, you know, well before, you know, I Will Always Love You, just like back in the 80s and stuff. And she just that was a once in a lifetime talent there.
Definitely once in a generation talent. She's by far my favorite vocalist, male or female. So Whitney gets a lot of play in the house. So, but yeah, absolutely. That is definitely a different conversation, but nothing like Whitney. Even old Mariah Carey. I think we talked about this before. Like back in the 90s, Mariah Carey was something special too.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just
she takes over the one holiday station on Sirius XM on Mariah Mondays, where she like talks in between the songs. It's not for like I'm like, all right, you should probably just sing. Like she starts going off about. She said like time is not a concept, and I'm like, wait a second. Like I thought we were talking about Christmas here. Like just calm down. Like
I've never heard her have a coherent interview in the past 10 years. I mean, not that I've seen a lot of them, but every time it comes in the news, it's like she's just kind of in her diva moment and just like speaking whatever words are popping into her head, whether they make sense or not.
When you have so much money, people just agree with you. They're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Whatever.
The you mentioned in a round at the house, though. I got to throw out there that I love to torture my son with "Last Christmas" by Wham.
I love that song.
It's a beautiful song, but all I got to do is just say, I put on those first couple notes, and then the beat kicks in, and he'll like run to whatever's playing the music. He's like, "No, stop it, turn it off."
My wife loves Do They Know This Christmas? Do They Know It's Christmas? Even though it's kind of a jerk song. You know what I mean? Like they're like, it's not snowing in Africa this Christmas. It's better to be you than it is them. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what a terrible
that Bono line always kind of threw me. Like, well,
the Bono line is
thank God it's there instead of you. It's like, what are you trying to say?
Like, holy shit! Like, what are you doing? I thought we were trying to make money for these folks in Africa, and like, you just be like, yeah, good thing it's you in Ireland, and not, you know, you're not in like Somalia. Like, what the fuck? Like that to me, I love that song. It's a great song.
But yeah, it's in my rotation for Christmas. It is.
That line is kind of dark. Like
it came from a good place.
What song is this?
Do They Know It's Christmas?
Do They Know It's Christmas?
By Band-Aid. No, it's US. Yeah, no, Band-Aid. That's it. Bob Geldof's thing from the 80s, raising money for Africa.
Yeah.
And then they actually remade it.
It's terrible.
It started out good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of newer UK singers that I didn't know who they were, but they brought back Bono and some other people. But then they threw in a rap break 3/4 in, and then it's, oh, okay, now you've lost me. It had no place in the song.
I agree. Totally agree. I will say this, and I'm not a huge Taylor Swift song. And I just said this to my wife like 2 weeks ago. That Christmas Tree Farm song came on. And I said, I kind of like this. I like this song.
From who?
It's Taylor Swift.
Oh,
and it's called Christmas Tree Farm.
Okay.
Listen to it, Steve. Must I didn't know it was her. I had no idea it was her. I've heard this song like at least 50 times. And I was like, I like this. And Marissa goes, this is Taylor Swift. I go, this is my favorite Taylor Swift song then. Like, hands down. And it's a good song. It's like, in my mind, your Christmas tree song. Like, I can't sing it. I mean, it's never going to be a thing, but great song. And then I got one more for you, Steve, because this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Is Billy Mack singing Christmas is All Around from Love Actually. The old guy singing that song and when he like messes with everybody. That to me is like, we talked about it before, like a song in a movie. That to me is one of the funniest things of the whole movie is him just like shit talking the young guys. And then he gets drunk with his manager at the end and he's naked. God, it's so great.
Did you watch the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special? I think it was last year.
I did. That was kind of rough.
Oh, and I enjoyed it, but the band at the beginning singing the song, Christmas song about Santa, and he's really hairy and he steals things and he parties with little people, and they had Chris Pratt going like, "That's true, but not true." It's like it was a good rocking Christmas song there, kind of out of nowhere.
Like Star Wars Christmas?
Well, the Star Wars holiday special, that's enough.
Star Wars holiday special.
That would be a whole other live stream there. Life Day. Yeah. B. Arthur.
Was it that bad or that good?
Oh, it's terrible.
The Star Wars holiday special?
The Star Wars holiday special.
Oh, if you've never watched that, Jamal, give that.
It's a money grab. And like
cocaine was flowing.
Yeah.
Oh, now I got.
Carrie Fisher said so. I mean, she said she barely remembered it.
That was like the actual like people from the movie are in that, which is
you got Harrison Ford, you got Mark Hamill, you got B. Arthur singing a love song with Chewbacca and stuff. It's crazy.
It's something that should have never.
I kind of like B. Arthur singing a song with Chewbacca.
I think so.
Yep. It is one of the most insane things you could ever watch. Like, I don't think
it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
you can't find it anywhere else.
Like acid, you would not even like come up with something that in your head.
The concept is they're all celebrating Life Day on Chewbacca's home planet because they can't say Christmas in Star Wars land
because it's in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, they haven't accepted Jesus and stuff yet.
Santa doesn't exist in stars because it's so far away. Cocaine.
Well
this
said.
This sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to find this.
Welcome, Luke.
Luke,
I apologize for tardiness.
No problem. We got started late today anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, it took me, like 45 minutes to put my kid to bed.
So where are you at in the conversation? I'm hearing Christmas, so I'm assuming.
We are still on the tail end of Christmas music.
Yeah. We were about done, and Jamal came in, and then we were like, we got to keep talking about it.
Well, from our thread conversation, that I will probably not contribute to this one very well. So,
Luke, I forgot to mention in our text group that I was telling Steve, and for you listeners out there, it's a repeat, but the song with Horatio Sands and Jimmy Fallon from SNL.
Yep.
Julian Casablancas like covers that song. Like he went into the studio and did it. It's so good.
Nicole and I actually covered it as well. I think I sent it to you guys last year.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Like that's the stuff you got to do, man. It's like stuff like that. Like who cares? Like I told Steve, like I told you, give me like the oddball songs, like Christmas All Over Again with Petty, and like that's the stuff I dig. So trust me, I am a hardcore no Christmas music until Thanksgiving is over.
Gotcha. I have tons.
My wife, on the other hand, I think
was
November
that Petty
1st,
song
like
on an album, or was that just kind of a one-time track?
It's from the box set, but I know it was just like a one-off. I think
it was played with the Home Alone movie.
It's on playback. The box set he has.
I own every Tom Petty album, and I don't know if I've ever heard it, but that
I think
it's on the playback box set.
okay.
I think.
I want to say Home Alone 2, that it was like maybe in the movie.
Okay.
But I don't remember. That might be like a false memory in there. But
it's not fake news, Steve, because Donald Trump was in that movie.
There you go. But yeah, I do have tons of Christmas albums, but that's because I'm an obsessive collector and I have to have everyone's complete discography. So I'm trying to think. There you go.
That's
Christmas
cool.
gift from my wonderful wife. That's great.
Luke, I spoke about Let Me Sleep, It's Christmas Time for a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, even the godfathers of grunge, one of the four horsemen of grunge,
yes,
even made a Christmas song.
There you go.
And you know who else did? The Darkness.
Yeah.
I Am Santa. Everyone needs to listen to I Am Santa. It's a fantastic song.
And Pearl Jam's got a few others because they used to call that the Christmas single, right?
Yeah, well, they used to cover them, and then they would do some ramblings. And
yeah, Santa God, I think.
Yeah, but Let Me Sleep, It's Christmas Time.
That one's awesome.
I think I've only seen that. I think they played that at Wrigley.
Wrigley 2016, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. So it's very interesting to listen to Let Me Sleep, It's Christmas Time, Steve, in August at Wrigley Field outside.
When what's his name? Springsteen did Bonnaroo. In the middle of it, he was taking requests from the crowd. He collected the signs, and then he would reach in and pull out a sign. And if it was, Thunder Road, he'd play Thunder Road, etc. And he pulled out what's his Christmas song?
Which one?
The Springsteen's famous Christmas song, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. And he starts jokingly chastising the crowd, saying it's too because this is in August in Tennessee. Yeah. He's like, it's too damn hot for Christmas. No. And as he's chastising the crowd, the piano starts the beginning of the song. And he had missed a feet and he just kind of hangs his head.
See, that's amazing. Amazing. That's also a great song.
And they jammed on it. It was great.
Yeah.
It was really good.
So
that is a great song.
For the set list chasers, Pearl Jam's got the same thing. People are trying to complete a list of songs that they haven't seen live in concert. So I guarantee you there were some fans that were trying to check that off of their 2C list.
Great. One of the best live people. I felt so old. I felt like I wasted my life, or I wasn't like a good person or something after watching Springsteen. I'm like, this guy is this old and he's running around, and I'm just sitting there going, I don't know if I could take another drink of my beer.
Yeah, Springsteen and Paul McCartney, they sprint up and down that stage, like energy out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I've got tons of Christmas albums. So Norah Jones, her voice melts me. So I mean, I can listen to that one no problem. She and Him, Zooey Deschanel, she's got an amazing.
Oh, voice. Those were so good. They did so many. Didn't they have like a couple of them?
Yeah. Yep. I think Christmas Party and yeah, I've got them on the shelf over here. I could dig through, but I won't.
That's another one, Steve, in a movie that's great singing is her and Will Ferrell in Elf. Great. One of the coolest scenes
when he's spying on her in the shower.
Well, get out.
So, but yeah, traditionally Christmas music, and you were giving me crap about it, I know, but it just for me it doesn't have the content. It's very basic, and I understand that's the point. Christmas is gifts under the tree in America anyway. Gifts under the tree, Santa's coming down the chimney, blah blah blah. That just I don't know. It's not something that I would gravitate towards. But I know you said Sufjan Stevens did an originals album.
Yeah.
See, so I'd have to give it a listen.
It's a whole box set where he covers. I mean, and when I say it's like a box set, like it was, I have it. It's literally sitting in my parents' garage. It's like. It's a pretty nice box set, and it's him doing like his Christmas songs,
sure,
plus covers.
So I would give that one a listen just because I'm assuming that like the Andrew Bird song that I sent the other day, it's probably got more beef to it as opposed to building a snowman in the backyard and then coming in and roasting chestnuts on the fire. So, but Andrew Bird did a complete album as well. It's called Hark, and it's all original. So I've only listened to it a handful of times, but it's a good album. It's just it's not as, I'm going to say, cheesy. I know I'll probably offend some people there, but
oh no, you missed it. We're about 10 minutes of my going off on Christmas for a second, but
well, we beat Christmas into the ground. We can move on to another topic, and this is one that stemmed from a conversation I was having with Dan Schinder of Drum Talk TV on the side from an upcoming episode. But remastered music, what's the purpose of it? Is it, and I kind of want to hear opinions here, because my initial take is that a remastered album would be because it was my dad chime in with the Eagles there. Don Henley, please come home for Christmas. But the something that was way recorded long ago, and it's hard to hear. It doesn't sound good. It's just, crackle, whatever. And, remastered it so that it can play on CDs or whatever. But nowadays you've got, remastered albums that came out in the 2000s and, and later, remastered for today. Is that necessary? And to a second extent, if you remaster Sgt. Pepper's, is it taking away from its initial intent? It was recorded as is. Should it be heard as is?
So Revolver is a great example of that. So Revolver was recorded in mono. Peter Jackson came up with his company came up with a technology that was able to turn it into a stereo album. So the difference is night and day for sure.
100% agree.
In instances like that, I think it is hugely beneficial, because I don't think it was artists to record on crappy media. So, but the problem with that is too, that was recorded in what?
1964, 1966.
Okay.
Revolver 66.
Have you not gotten to the 67 conversation yet? Because
we
started out with that.
Yes, we started. We did a lot of 67.
Okay, so anyway, but the tape has degraded since then too. So you got to take that into account. So if they're remastering from that original tape, which is all analog, I know there are some purists out there that say analog is the way to go. If you're recording from tape to vinyl, there's no digital transformation in the chain. Instances like Revolver is fantastic. But I will also say that modern music, if it was recorded crappily, it deserves a remaster as well. So
I think that was for you, Alan.
There are a lot of bands that recorded very poor music in the 90s and early 2000s because they didn't have the technology at the time.
Luke,
go ahead.
I will say 10, the way Brendan O'Brien originally recorded it, it's very tingy. It's very like hair metal bands. And then the remaster that came out in like 2009.
Yeah. And they did a remix.
That is such, it's way better.
Yep, I agree.
Now a remix is something different, like what
no,
played in Animals, like Animals 2018. It to me is a completely different album.
Sure, yeah. But so Brendan O'Brien, there's a Brendan O'Brien mix, included in that box set. So there's a remaster, and it's the original tapes, but then there's also the Brendan O'Brien remix. And if you play them back to back, you can hear more detail and
I think like when they re-released the Beatles stuff, like in what is that, 2009? Like the first time.
The mono box, yeah.
Was it mono and stereo?
Whatever they mono and stereo. There were
right.
two.
They cleaned it all up, and I remember I gave it to my dad, and my dad told me, he goes, this is the first time I could hear stuff in the background. I had no idea any of that stuff was there. I was like, this guy's been listening to it since he was a kid, and he's hearing new stuff. Like, I think that type of stuff should be done. Like, I think to get the full spectrum of how the record in their mind should have been. Like 10 it's like when we were kids, like the ears aren't that sophisticated. But
Neither is the
if I go
equipment.
back to the CD that I have from 10, I would rather listen to the 2009 like version of it over
But there's a
the
part of me that's
1991 version of it.
there's an originalist part of me that I want to hear the album the way it was originally recorded and
Right, but with the Beatles, like that's what it originally should have sounded like, but they didn't have the technology.
It's a product of the time.
In the studio, it sounded way different, like physically in the studio, than it did on the actual vinyl. So, no, he's talking about St. Anger's drums. Oh, Christ.
I don't think you can fix that though, unless Lars went in and re-recorded.
Stop hitting the cymbal and the hi-hat.
I guess they could remove that portion of the song. But.
That's how I feel about it. Like, I've heard different things that have been done, and I'm like, like, especially if shit's only like 10 years old.
Exactly. A lot of it is a money grab.
That's insane.
Absolutely.
Like, there's no fucking the technology has not changed that much. Like, Pro Tools?
Maybe they weren't as big back in the day.
Right. They didn't have the money to make it what they wanted. I get that.
If you can polish that, great. But I don't know. The phrase is you can't polish a turd. So if you recorded poorly, sometimes you can't resurrect that.
And sometimes that sounds better.
Yeah, sure.
When it's like, if especially if it's like a newer band and they like, it sounds more raw. But like the Beatles, I mean, fucking Revolver, that's like their 5th, 6th record. That's supposed to sound good. These guys are polished musicians by then.
Yep.
That's I don't know. That's how I think about it. But
to me, there's a fine line between polishing it and changing it. If you're adding new elements to it.
Do you have an example of something that you've been offended by that was quote unquote remastered?
Well, more recently, Tales from Topographic Oceans, which is January's episode, but there is a remastered version, and the tracks are completely different. They added things. They added a whole new intro to the very first track, and it's like this is not it.
Sure.
Because they were very
adding stuff's different. I think that's not the same record. Then
what was it added at the band's request though? Because you mentioned artist intent earlier. So if it's their intent to alter their previous work, I mean, I guess
it's the George Lucas syndrome here. I mean, there's
but you also couldn't fit. You could only fit so much on like a vinyl, though, Steve. Think about that. Like, yes, and those guys, those prog guys, they like if you think about like Tool's Lateralis, they literally went to the end of the CD on purpose just to be dicks. Like the guys from Yes and like King Crimson and stuff, if they could have gave him tape forever, you know what I mean? Like, I think they would have. Like, and I think the guys from Yes probably just were like, "Fuck, now we have extra minutes. Let us dick around with these songs more." Because I mean, that album was a vinyl, literally a vinyl. Like, you can only put so much on it, especially prog stuff. Maybe one song. I mean, doesn't Yes have a song that like? Well, that you have to like actually flip and like listen to the rest of it, or I'm thinking of somebody else.
Closer to the Edge was a whole track on one side of one disc, and then Topographic Oceans was 4 songs, 2 vinyl discs.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a commitment.
I couldn't afford that third one. That's what the problem was.
Al, what do you think? You haven't said a word.
Yeah, just letting you guys play it all out. I'm kind of, if I buy a remixed album, I don't like anything added from the original. I don't like, it's okay if the sounds were there and they're brought up or however isolated so you can hear them. I don't mind all that, but when it changes, I mean, like Steve said, I guess, but when it changes the whole album, I don't like it at all.
Sure.
It's pure.
Yeah, and I could totally.
It's like
agree
a
with that.
purist level, but maybe like a notch up when they, bring up certain sounds, like you could hear whatever. I don't know.
That's why I like what Pink Floyd did with Animals. I mean, that 2018 remix is a great listen, but they actually titled it, Animals 2018 remix. It's an entirely different, no pun intended, entirely different animal than the original.
So, this leads into another conversation. Streaming. I think you're on streaming. You're given what they have on hand, right? So you might be listening to the 2016 version of the Nationals album when in reality they had recorded it back in 2003. So the version that you're hearing on Spotify or whatever the streaming services are, I don't have any of them, but you are forced to listen to that mix of that album. So another notch in the physical media realm or the list.
That's true.
You can control which version you're listening to, whether that be on vinyl, if that's the best sounding to your ears, or SACD, or whatever. If you have your preferred vessel to listen to it on, they can never take that away from you. But if you've got a Spotify account, you're at their mercy of which master you're listening.
And they will always put up the most recent remaster as like the first in the search.
Sure. Right. So, but I will say this though, is Apple does have all the different.
Yeah, you got to sometimes you got to search down. Like recently, Siamese Dream, for whenever I eventually meet up with the Hanks and get that episode in. Whether it's Amazon or Apple or Spotify, whatever, the remastered version of Siamese Dream is always the first one.
Sure.
You got to dig down and go to like sometimes the next page of the search to be like, okay, I want the original album, just the main tracks.
But don't you think Billy probably likes the remastered better?
Well, he needs to come on this show and explain that to me then.
Do you know what I mean though? Like, I mean, he played everything anyways except the drums on that record, but don't you think like if the newer technology, the more he's gonna fuck with those records? Like, because that's how he is. Like certain
George
guys
Lucas syndrome.
Right. Yes, that's
he's going to go in though and then make Greedo fire when Han fired first. Everyone knows that, and you change the movies, change the album. You're changing it from the original, and I'm just not a fan of the changes. But like Al said, is if you're upping something that's already there, okay, making it more crisp, making it level better, okay. But if you change,
and I think the Beatles did that. I think the Beatles remixes did that. I think I mean, because if my old man, who's been listening to us, he was since 1964, he was like, "Oh, I heard something I've never heard before, and I can't believe." He goes, "That's crazy to me."
And to be honest,
then I'm fine.
You probably haven't heard the Beatles' original intent, air quotes here.
I mean, I do though. I have them from my parents. So, you know what I mean.
But
I have the vinyl.
But what I'm saying is, you might have the stereo versions. So if you're not listening in mono, that was technically the original intent.
And I did listen to your mono. I did listen to those mono CDs. I will say this: I like Revolver and stereo way more than mono.
The remix did shine a light.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it's
I mean, Revolver is my favorite record by the Beatles. It's one of my favorite records of all time.
And see, if AI can do that, I mean, I'm interested in hearing it, but I will fall back into the old guy category at the end of the day. What I'm used to, the original, it will probably be my go-to, but it is fun to hear that kind of stuff, especially as technology progresses.
Yeah. Jamal, you got any thoughts on this one?
I agree with this. The very first thing he said, sometimes like I can understand it with older music, like you said, that was recorded in mono, and then the technology allows you to hear things that weren't there before. But I've never seen a remaster, a solid remaster without being able to remix the individual instrumentation as well. Like you don't get like thinking about Prince had a Prince remaster. My mom had it. I think it was Purple Rain. I had it on vinyl, and then they remastered and I think put it out like a year or two after he passed away. And the only difference there was with like the guitar instrumentation, and to me it wasn't enough more than just a money grab. I think it's just like very with older stuff, it makes a difference, but like a lot of stuff just doesn't need it. Like what are you remastering for? And I if it's recorded crappy, remastering or remixing is not going to, I guess for me, is not going to give you that depth that you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
So like, if it's recorded how it's recorded, like you said, like if they recorded it in a closet, with the microphone in the bathroom or whatever, all the remaster and remix in the world, is not gonna, in my opinion, is not going to give you that depth of what you're looking for, and especially like you put it on the streaming service when they're all what's the word I'm looking for? Their loudness factor or whatever, their lust factor is all different. So to me, you're changing the character. You're changing the entire character of what it is that was recorded, and that for me is kind of is pointless. It's pointless. I mean, I can use like the one that really sticks out to me because obviously I'm a hip hop head is Notorious B.I.G. when they remastered his second album, which came out in he passed away 2006. They came out they made a 20th anniversary. Literally, all they did was remix 3 records, and then but the master was the same. And I know it was the same because I put it in my mastering software. I put it on my DAW, and it's literally the same as the original. So that type of shit right there super irritates me. But like, yeah, but Prince's, I get like sometimes like I get it, but it's hard for me to really get with a remaster if it's already recorded like how it is. I mean, it's just what it is. So I'm fine with that because I understand what it was for the time, and it's just something to me like ends up being a money grab more than like for the fans' sake anyway.
Yeah, and Prince, like he knew what he was doing anyways in the studio. So like, get out of town. Yeah, you gotta remaster Prince. Like he remastered himself. Like we're talking about,
right?
And I will say the one like Notorious when they redid like Ready to Die, like it sounded I don't know if it just sounded like less clear or
it sounded like 2000s
jumbled. Yeah, it sounded like jumbled.
Whoever,
and that's like what 94. I mean. Like it didn't sound like 94. Like, I mean, man, I was in high school. Like I heard that record. I heard it. Like I heard that CD. I had it. So it just sounded like jumbled. I'm with you. Like it was weird what they did.
You mentioned the loudness wars. So early 2000s was prime time for that. Late 90s, early 2000s. So maybe quote unquote remaster was just bumping those levels up to be brick walled and to make it louder. And I probably a lot of albums at that time were guilty of that. Just they increased the levels, re-released it as a quote unquote remaster, and I agree. At that point, it's a money grab.
I think we're all kind of circling the same, opinion on this one.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like I just haven't encountered one where it said, "Damn, that's okay. That was significant and needed that." But now it sounds way better now. I guess I'm more of it. a traditionalist, I guess, kind of like you, Steve. You kind of got kind of aggressive there. Like, you need to come on the show and tell me what I need to do. Okay.
Well, there's some, I've read some arguments that are facts, I don't know, from producers that say the lower the dB, the more an album and music can breathe, the more that you actually hear and feel the texture, like around the 89 dBs instead of getting up to, like, I think that new Jerry Cantrell's like in the 97 or 98 or something. It comes out as far
That's
as
a good record, by the way. That's good. Man.
I thought it was pretty great too.
I really
I was
liked
a little
it.
disappointed in it, honestly. I didn't know I was just buying another Alice in Chains record. I thought it was going to be actually something different.
Oh, well, see, I think that's what got me, Al, is it sounded like some Alice in Chains. And
Yeah.
when you get nostalgic for Alice in Chains,
It was good.
It made me warm and fuzzy.
It was good. It just left me a little, like, I thought, oh, maybe it's going to be something a little bit different. But because anyway, we're getting off that onto that subject. But
Jeff Tweedy's recording company is called 89 DB MP, something like that, whatever you were referring to. So.
But by the way, Jeff Tweedy and Lane Staley, born in 1967.
Yeah, you guys missed
that was a mistake.
The age. It makes no sense how all these guys are the same age, Steve. I'm so mad it was just me and you, because it would have been mind-blowing for everybody else.
From Kurt Cobain to Dave Matthews to Noel Gallagher, Heavy D, Vanilla Ice, Harry Connick Jr., all born in 1967.
Same age. That's insane.
Matthew and Gunnar Nelson.
Well, yeah, they're twins. I mean, I hope. The only way they wouldn't is like they're December 31st, and then the other one was January 1st, I guess. But hey, I told my brother to sign on so he could like comment.
Hi, Justin.
I was like, "What are you doing?" He's texting me. I go, "Hey, if you want to sit and bullshit here, come on."
All right. Let's see. Let's move on to another topic here. Let's see. Leonard Skinner, country clowns or blue collar geniuses?
Well, first we should point out that you spelled it wrong in the email, just so you know. No vowels.
Is that why Al Skinner's on here?
Yes, apparently.
But I'm a detail guy, I guess.
Yeah. I can hand in my Midwest card now, I guess.
Well,
Steve,
I'll start on this.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Al, because I would love to hear it.
Because this is basically what I thought of the band. So I kind of posed this question. I thought, Sweet Home Alabama, oh God, can they just play this one more time? Because I've not heard it enough.
Free bird.
But once I got into the catalog a little bit, I really got into these guys. The blue collar lyrics, the grooves that they get into. I missed out on Leonard Skinner for several years because I literally just wrote them off for Sweet Home Alabama as being, that song that anybody could write, but in reality, nobody could write it but them, and they did it. And look how popular it is. So that's why I posed the question, because I feel like I missed out for a long time on these guys that I just wrote them off.
I can agree with a lot of that. I mean, living in Georgia next to Alabama, I'm cool never hearing Sweet Home Alabama ever again. It doesn't need to be played anymore.
But you know what? I would argue that, I think we talked about on one of these before, but debut albums, like Simple Man, Free Bird, Tuesday's Gone, Give Me 3 Steps, all those were on the first album.
I didn't know Free Bird was on their debut album.
All those. Wow. I mean, that is
that is impressive
lineup right there.
But also all written by the original singer.
Oh yeah, I'm not
And-
talking
Because now
when
they're a clown. They're a clown. It's a clown
karaoke
band
Yeah.
now.
Well, once the plane
Because like
crashed, that's
they were like anti-gun. They were like tongue in cheek about like you know, this like shit talking Neil Young, and they even played like Neil Young even played on the stage with them. And now like, you know, they're like all this, I'm not getting political here, but like the right-wing bullshit like that those guys push. The guy who died was not that guy. He was Give Me 3 Steps was an anti-gun song.
Yeah,
Like it was. He said it was. So
when you
like
get-
that's what sucks.
yeah, the Southern by the Grace of God crap, that's all marketing and BS and stupid. And it's all just stupid. But when you get to the old band, like Alan was talking about, the original lineup, the original run of albums, and you get beyond the Sweet Home Alabama and their hits are good. I'm not going to say they're not good. Call Me the Breeze. That one I'll hear any day of the week. That's
working
a
for
great song.
MCA. I love that song.
My dad would play me some songs that I had never heard before, like Curtis Lowe with Mr. Banker and things that are just wonderful Southern blues that I was not expecting.
Yeah.
And I think they got think about all the stuff that with the Allman Brothers, with those guys, and those guys like all like hung out with each other and like played with Muscle Shoals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I love like Drive-By Truckers is those guys love Skynyrd. Like they wrote a whole record about Lynyrd Skynyrd and about what a great band they were. And the lead singer Patterson Hood was so upset that he was supposed to go see Skynyrd with, I cannot remember the original lead singer's name.
Ronnie.
I feel so bad.
Ronnie
Ronnie.
Van Zant?
Yeah, and he goes, I saw all these bands, and he talks about it, and he goes, but I never saw Ronnie with Lynyrd Skynyrd. And that was an entire record they wrote about Lynyrd Skynyrd. Like, there are great Southern rock bands, and those cats.
Another
play
thing that
awesome.
was another thing that was cool that I didn't know until recently. There was a documentary I think I rewatched on YouTube recently about it too, but they were not like virtuoso musicians. They didn't know how to, solo on stuff like Allman Brothers, right? Those guys were, real musicians.
That
they
is
knew
true.
where to,
I mean, those guys
knew where to
could
take a
frickin'
song.
rip.
But these guys, one of the cool things I think about these guys, they were just these guys love music, obviously, but they did songs like a job. They learned them and they kept doing it and doing it and doing it until they got it right. And even in concert, they didn't go off like, solo for 10 minutes or whatever, like an Allman Brothers or whatever does, because they didn't know how. So basically you just got this work ethic. We're going to do a song. We're going to do it till we get it right. And then this is how it's going to be. So to me, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And to Doug's point, they chimed in on the chat that there's bands like Government Mule and 38 Special, and also the Allman Brothers, led into a lot of those too. There's a lot of influence that Skynyrd had. And I mean, it all comes down to that plane crash. It's a shame. That's a huge turning point there. That band was obviously never going to be the same after that.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, that was the end of the band. I mean, I know they keep releasing albums and
what year was that?
And all that. Was it 77?
Street Survivors came out in 77, so I think
that was the last album, because that was the not controversy, but that was, remember the album cover had flames behind it.
Yeah.
And then
Didn't they Photoshop that out?
They withdrew a bunch of those. Yeah. So if you get the ones with the flames, I got it. It's an original. It's an original first pressing.
Sure. And obviously not Photoshop. Photoshop did not exist back in the 70s, but they did take out.
Like they took out the flames. Yeah.
Like I've never known Leonard Skinner as an active band in that era. I was born after, so it was always a past band riding the coattails with a new lineup.
Well, even for me too. I mean, it wasn't. That's what I mean. I kind of. I would have just been getting into FM radio then, and that's what I mean. I kind of just blew it off, right? This band's already over with, whatever, and then that's what led up to this question. I mean, because I literally just would not play anything for 5 years or whatever. I don't know how long it was, and then once I dove in a little bit, I'm like, damn, I missed out on all this time.
I would recommend their B-sides and deep cuts. For anyone that wants to dive into a catalog that has some really great Southern blues. There's some really good stuff in there. They don't jam like Allman Brothers, like you said, and I prefer the jam stuff more, but it's still great stuff.
And if you appreciate some boogie woogie piano, I mean, that Billy Powell, that piano player, I mean, that's some great stuff. He's one underrated piano playing dude.
All right, let's see. Let's move on to the next topic. Yacht Rock. All right, so I put that on there because I recently went to the Yacht Rock review, and I gotta tell everyone, it was fucking awesome. This show completely blew me away. They it's been a while since I've been to a show that I really kind of not just had a great time, but I walked out of there with a huge smile on my face. These guys were having a blast. They were playing the rockin' covers of just your basic Yacht Rock, bands. You heard your Baker Street, you heard some ELO, heard some Steely Dan, some Atlanta rhythm section, which was great.
Yeah, there
and
you go.
It was really good. And then, mixed in with some Christmas songs, they played Jingle Bell Rock. They played Wonderful Christmas Time. They played Dick in a Box. So that was hilarious.
Fantastic.
Classic Yacht Rock.
Yeah.
If I hear Yamo be there one more time, I'm going to Yamo burn this place to the ground.
Okay, I have a question though.
I bought the hat, man. I bought the hat.
What is the definition of yacht rock?
Yacht rock to me is
the whitest music
soft,
ever.
Yes.
Let's be honest, Steve.
All
It's
right.
like the whitest music of all time.
Yeah, as far as the crowd goes, I'll say it was bright in there. There's wasn't a lot of diversity amongst the crowd. But they did have a fantastic African American singer. She sang what's that Sade song? Smooth Operator. Smooth Operator. That was one of the
Quick side note about Sade. That's the band name.
Not her
Sade.
name. Yeah, not her name.
name.
Her middle name or something is Sade.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
they named the band. That's the band. I saw that the other day. It blew my mind.
But bands like the Doobie Brothers, Steely Dan, the Christopher Cross. Yeah, they sang a couple Christopher Cross songs.
Michael McDonald.
Ride Like the Wind.
Is Michael McDonald considered yacht rock?
Yes.
Yes.
He is like the godfather of yacht rock.
I
on,
love
that's
Any
from
song that
40-Year-Old
he's
Virgin.
sung back up on would be yacht rock. Yes.
Soft
That's
rock
from-
of the
that's-
70s, 80s era.
He ruined
Okay.
the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
The best
there's
Doobie
argument
Brothers
to be made
songs are
there.
without Michael McDonald.
I
There's an
disagree. But we could have that topic some other time. But
Look at me now.
I don't think he
That's
ruined
just
them.
my opinion.
I think he helped them.
Well, yeah, to make money, but it's
We helped him continue as a band because
Yeah.
those other two dudes were done for. Pat
well, it's kind of
Simmons.
like Chicago. If you think about it. Like,
Peter Cetera.
Peter Cetera really didn't do a whole lot. Even though I Love Saturday in the Park is, I think, a way better song than the Karate Kid soundtrack Part 2 song. I can't remember that song, but
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamal.
So it's soft rock of the 70s and 80s.
Pretty
Is
much.
considered yacht.
Yeah. So when you get into like
mid 70s, wouldn't it be mid 70s to 80? I don't know.
yeah, there's like
I would go
80s
into the
there.
80s with it because they also tagged in a lot of like Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
Like Footloose was played.
Air Supply, Bread.
Yep. Bread.
They played some REO
Luke,
Speedwagon.
Don't talk about Bread. Why would you bring Bread up? now I'm enraged.
Must have been Orleans, Still the One. They played that one.
No.
Yes.
So that's
Well,
that's
to be
all.
fair, Steve, Kenny Loggins was in a band called Loggins and Messina back when they made the wimpiest shit of all time. Just like Bread, they are on the same. They're all on the same channel.
Danny's song is a beautiful tune, man.
Bread. Don't. I can't.
Is Don Henley solo?
Oh, that's a good question.
Eagles are kind of yacht rock, to be fair.
Oh, come on.
Some songs are.
No.
Some of those songs are.
Any of the ones that
My
Michael,
wife just looked at me. She gave me a look like she's like,
any of the songs that Timothy B. Schmidt sang would be considered yacht rock.
Okay,
honestly, I will say this right now: those are the worst songs by the Beagles. Or by the Eagles are Timothy B. Schmidt.
Timothy Schmidt songs are skippable every time. They're not great.
So it's like
Joe
a certain
Walsh songs, man.
So I'm just curious. So is it like a certain tempo? Is it just like a subgenre that kind of got the mushroomed into something else, or
it evolved?
It
evolved out of the '70s with just that slow, mellow rock kind of tunes. That I don't know why it's called yacht rock, other than you could picture it being played with a bunch of white dudes on a yacht. I guess
super polished.
The wind.
It's very polished. Yeah.
Right.
Steely Dan, though, like legitimately made music that way because they were that good in the studio, though. I always think about Steely Dan
musicians that they had were
right. I mean, granted, I will always think, and everybody should think of Steely Dan in Knocked Up. When Paul Rudd goes, no, you should listen to some really good Steely Dan. And, he's just like, Steely Dan gargle my balls. And he's like, no, like really good Steely Dan. And I never thought I'd like Steely Dan. And then I thought, well, now I'm in my 30s and now I'm in my 40s. I'm like, I enjoy Steely Dan way too much.
Yeah, there's some bands like that you just grow into, I guess, or for lack of a better word. And why is that?
Well,
that'd be Dire Straits. That'd be Dire Straits for me.
They actually played the Romeo and Juliet from Dire Straits, and it was the get a beer moment. That was
because I'm not a big Dire Straits guy.
It was kind of a low point in the show, but it was they did play some Dire Straits.
Would Dire Straits be considered yacht rock? I don't think so.
I wouldn't have considered it, but they played it.
It would if they were trying to get the party going on the yacht.
I wouldn't have considered ELO yacht rock, but they played "Don't Bring Me Down."
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think that falls into that.
Yeah, but that song maybe.
You got to play.
I think like certain songs might be.
Oh yeah, there wasn't a single song played that I didn't know. That was one of the beautiful things about the show. It was just
they're not going to dive into Steely Dan's back catalog.
No, I don't think so.
So
a good Steely Dan.
I've got
the really good Steely Dan.
I got Wikipedia's list of yacht rock artists up here, and there's also a subcategory called yacht soul.
Oh, jeez.
And they've got
Michael McDonald.
They've got Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, Patti LaBelle, Lionel Richie.
I can see Lionel as
hold on.
A little bit more into
How did any of those people qualify as yacht soul?
Yacht soul. I'm telling you,
that's
Here, I'll copy the list into the
Maybe
chat.
Jamal, I'm telling you, I think it's more
I
like,
know. I
like
can't
one,
even accept
one or
that.
two songs might be.
Hello.
Patty LaBelle.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh
Like
no.
Hello by Lionel Richie is a Yacht Rock song.
I mean, maybe
That's
the Commodores.
Totally Yacht Rock.
The Commodores?
That's a funk
Yacht
band.
Rock?
No,
Oh,
not the Commodores.
They were a funk band.
I would say like some of the cheesy. You know what, Jamal? I think it's like the cheesy '80s versions of those artists. Like
You calling
not
Patty
like,
LaBelle cheesy?
No, I'm saying like Lionel Richie cheesy. Like hello,
Billy Ocean.
like,
Was that
you know
Lionel
what I
Richie
mean?
with the J curl? Billy Ocean?
Billy Ocean a little bit.
Caribbean
Michael
Queen.
Jackson though, I don't know. Like I
You
think I
can't
would
put
go
Michael Jackson
slow,
in.
like Ben, like Michael Jackson. Like
Let
what's
me
slow
say
Michael
this. Let me say
Jackson?
this. If they played
getting off.
Rock With Me from Michael Jackson at that show, it would have fit right in. Everyone would have loved it, and it would have felt right there
But
with
it's
the
not
group
Yacht
logo.
Rock.
Maybe
But
it's
it's not Yacht
the
Rock,
beat
though.
then, because like Rock With Me, no way, man. That's
What's The Way You Make Me Feel? What's the name of that one? Is that the name of the
That's
song?
not bad.
That's
Michael Jackson.
straight pop.
Yeah, that's
yeah, it's a
full
pop song.
there.
But you know, like, the thing is, though, Jamal, a lot of these songs are like super poppy rock songs. Like I always call them, like in our text group with Steve and Luke, Valley Pool, like the town I grew up in, Spring Valley Pool, like the unassuming like rock songs that you could play at a pool, at a public pool that no one goes, well, that there was no swears, it wasn't upsetting, and
These
it's
are the
just
ones that
kind of
show
like
up at
bland.
Lowe's and Home Depot now.
Yes. Only if you have time at the Home Depot.
After the Muzak rendition of "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Yes.
But yeah, they've got Stevie Wonder on the Yacht Soul list.
No.
Oh, 80 Stevie
80s
Wonder,
Stevie Wonder.
1,000%.
80s Stevie Wonder?
80 Stevie Wonder.
I just called to say I love you. Yeah, right in there.
Call to Say I Love You was 1,000% that song. Steve, they wrote a whole part of it in High Fidelity. That whole scene with that guy that came in to the record shop asking for, I just called to say I love you. Jack Black's character tells him to go pretty much fuck himself. That whole scene, that is 1,000% Stevie Wonder, Yacht Rock. Early Stevie, 70s.
We got P.O. DeBarge.
I know you ain't got DeBarge and Yacht Rock. I know you don't have the DeBarge and Yacht Soul. Hell nah. Not El DeBarge, and none of the DeBarges belong in Yacht Soul. I don't know. Now,
Yeah, but most of these artists
Bill
probably
Withers
started in the 80s. This is probably
No
all
way,
80s
Bill
stuff.
Withers. That Bill Withers, no way.
This has to be
That's
80s
soul.
stuff.
Bill Withers is
Not the Gap Band, no.
the
All
soul.
this has to be-
Bill Withers is soul, man. That guy. Ooh.
This has
I
to
got
be
a great
from the
story
80s
about the
on,
barge, though. Marissa's best friend, Kendall, lived in Los Angeles, and she lived next door to DeBarge, and he hit on her constantly. Tried to, like,
sounds about right.
it did not work out.
Did he show her the feel of the rhythm of the night?
Yep. She's like, who are you? I mean, so my wife is 34, and her friend Kendall was living out there when she was like 24. So put that
He's got to
together.
be in his 60s now.
I mean, now, but back then he was in his 50s, which is really like,
Doesn't help the conversation.
Hey, guys, got to try.
Just makes
Worth
me
a
think
shot.
Makes me think of The Last Dragon.
oh God,
It's a great movie.
what a great movie.
How white is the person that made this list?
Hey, that's my brother, by the way, Jamal.
I'll
let you know that that's my brother. That is my brother.
Did you pull that from Wikipedia or?
Yes, Wikipedia. That's where this came from.
Which list? The Yacht Soul list?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
the Yacht Soul list.
Yeah. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not claiming this list by any.
Yeah,
means.
but don't you think this list is probably from the 80s on? All these artists, not
Yeah, I mean,
70s,
a lot of these
not
are not.
70s
Like,
era,
there's no way
era.
that Earth, Wind, and Fire, like,
No,
early
70s
or...
era.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. See,
There's
Like
a lot
Michael
of disco
Jackson.
in here. Disco has not been discussed. And
I was about to say,
It shouldn't be discussed.
We should talk about, like, Michael
but-
Jackson song would be Yacht Rock. That's what I want to know.
Rock.
That's
with You
my thing.
is what comes to mind.
Rock with You.
And it's disco.
That's what I was gonna say. That's kind of my question was. Is like if well, guess where's the delineation between Yacht Soul or Yacht Rock and then the disco era? Because Mike definitely had the disco feel, had the disco records that led into the pop aspect or the power of his music, as well as Donna Summer, as well as Patty. She had those records as well. So I'm
It's
kind
gotta
of
be that. It has to be.
I'm kind of curious in that realm.
Because it's not. There's no way it's Thriller and bad, and you know what I mean.
Off the
There's no way
wall,
it's
off the
bad.
wall, Thriller, bad. I can't even.
Off the Wall, great record.
I love that album. I
God,
have
what a
that.
great
I mean, that's
record.
great.
Don't Stop Till You Get Enough is my favorite Michael Jackson song. 100%.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, Rock with You would have been welcomed at that show, and it would have fit right there with the groove of everything that was being played. So I think like the safe disco of the late 70s or early 80s, the radio friendly, easy stuff that would be what my take on the Yacht Soul.
I would venture to say that most bands and recording artists probably hate the term yacht being added to their genre.
I don't think Michael McDonald does. So.
I knew the Michael McDonald joke was coming. Oh man, I knew that was coming.
Justin, you're such a dick.
Luke,
Luke, my brother is my brother. He brings it. He does this.
Well, here's one bit of trivia for Justin, since I wasn't here earlier. But in 1967, The Who was opening for Herman's Hermits on tour.
I think the Who.
Yeah, and he loves The Who.
The Who Sell Out came out in '67. I believe.
It did.
Yep.
So,
but they opened up for Herman Hermits. Come on.
Henry
Like
D.
they were such a jangly, wimpy, rock band. It's
What year
weird.
did Jimi Hendrix open up for the Monkees? Was that
Same year.
67? Same year?
It has to be the same year, yeah.
Yep, same year.
I mean, the Beastie Boys opened up for Madonna, so
Hey, you got to pay your dues.
I mean, I saw Kings of Leon open up for Pearl Jam, but I don't
Hendrix
think it's
put
the
out
same
2
thing.
albums in '67, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So did the Doors. So did the Beatles.
Yeah. Jimi Hendrix had "Are You Experienced" and Axis "Bold as Love."
Yep.
It's easier to talk about '67 than Yacht Rock, Steve. Yacht Rock's just rage. It's like
Right.
rage against. It's like raging.
Okay, well, we'll go on to the next topic here, which is Justin said that isn't Roger's book. He said they were dicks.
Justin has read every member of the Who's books and multiple Who books. So he's your guy, to get the Who trivia fun.
All right, so next question, though. Why is Queen still so popular?
Adam Lambert.
Well, so I'm going to take on this, and again, this is my personal opinion. I think a lot of modern Queen listeners are greatest hits people. They're not. They're not delving into the deep catalog.
It's a shame if they aren't.
I'm not saying that one way is right or the other, but I think that their popularity is based on their greatest hits albums. And again, my opinion, I don't want to offend anyone, but I don't see them as like the Beatles. People want to hear their entire discography. There are certain bands where
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I would. Yeah, their first 6 albums probably.
Yeah, but think about it. So think about like Led Zeppelin's records. Almost every one of their songs are on classic rock radio. Like every record, though. Like I mean, obviously not Presence and
In Through the
Coda.
Yep.
But
yeah. So I think Queen is a greatest hits band. I hate to say that because Freddie Mercury has one of the greatest voices of all time. Of course, Brian May is one of the greatest guitarists of all time. But I don't think people are trying to get that elusive track or album out of them. I think that.
So,
go ahead,
Luke. I will say this. I tried to go through and go back to listen to Queen. And the fact that like Freddie Mercury doesn't sing every song is maddening to me. Like it's kind of like the Mike Stone Gossard sings like 2 songs from Pearl Jam.
Sure.
2 out of how many Pearl Jam songs are there? 300 plus?
Probably pretty close. Yes.
They have so many records, and the fact that you would be like, yeah, listen, he's all right, let him sing. But it's like a couple songs on the record. Like, no, I'm sorry. If you have a voice like Freddie Mercury, use his voice.
Sure.
Use it the whole time. And I think that's what turned me off about their records. Like, I know that their production and the sound and the guitar and all that stuff is great. It is very good. But I want Freddie singing those songs, man. He's the voice. He's the guy. Like, he's the one that nobody's going to fucking see Brian May sing any song with Queen. Nobody is. No one goes, oh, man, I really heard that one song, Brian. I can't even name a song because nobody gives a shit.
39.
It's literally his songs. And that's why you get a guy like Adam Lambert to sing all those, because Adam Lambert's got a voice just like, not just like him, but like, he's got a great voice. A great voice is a great voice. Like, it sucks to say that, but sorry. They are not popular. They are not a band if Brian May is their lead singer the whole way through.
Sure.
That's a fact.
Even Ringo got a turn.
He got to sing one song every record Ringo did. So that's all.
Yeah, so I would like to survey a random group of Queen, quote unquote, Queen diehards and say, hey, what album came out in 1982? And name a song off of that album. I don't think Queen is that type of band.
No, I don't think so either.
So, Steve, name.
I think that was Radio Gaga. I think 82, right? Honestly,
what was it? Jazz?
Hot Space.
Oh, Hot Space.
Isn't that Radio Gaga?
Under Pressure.
But that was David. To be fair, I mean they're both great. That's
a great
sure.
song.
And again, no offense to Queen or any diehards out there, because I guarantee you there are Queen diehards that know every single song. They went to all the concerts and so on. So I don't know. Am I?
Brian May didn't sing at those shows. No way.
Well, even some of the songs that Brian or Roger Taylor sung on the albums, Freddie Mercury still sang on stage.
Yeah.
39 being an example there. But the I don't know if you guys ever saw the 1991 Freddie Mercury tribute concert. That was right after Freddie Mercury died. They had this tribute concert in I want to say Wembley or wherever. There was like 200,000 people there, but it was the Queen, the band, but then a revolving door of guest singers from Robert Plant to
Paul Rogers was one.
It was really good. Annie Lennox sang with David Bowie for Under Pressure, and it was just James Hetfield came out and sang Stone Cold Crazy. It was great. So check that out if you ever get a chance. It was quite good.
Oh, that's the fact that they brought James out there. I mean, I know it was a cover, but I mean, I know they were big, but I didn't think James was that big enough to like actually be on.
It was during
That's
the
wild.
Guns N' Roses and Metallica tour together.
Right. I mean, that Black
Yeah.
album was like obviously the one that put him in the stratosphere. You
It
know?
was say Metallica actually opened the show with their own stuff, and then they went into the Queen stuff with the different guests, and then Guns N' Roses comes in halfway through the show, does their own songs. You know, they sing like "Knocking on Heaven's Door," and then in Paradise City, I think. But then the finale of the show was Elton John and Axl Rose singing Bohemian Rhapsody. It was entertaining, I'll say. Not exactly high art at times, but entertaining.
I do love me some Elton John and Axl Rose.
All right, so let's see. Next question on Al's list here. What would the world be like when there? What will the world be like when there are no more Beatles left?
The same as it is currently.
I don't know, man. Now and then, I will fight to the death for that song. It was the number one song when my kid was born, and the fact that it was the number one song when my child was born was crazy. The fact that there was, and I get it. Peter Jackson cut all that stuff but he cut all that stuff to make John Lennon's voice there. It was there. It was just recorded shitty. So to me, it's going to be a weird thing, but I don't think the Beatles will 100 years from now. I think the Beatles are like Beethoven. I think they're like Tchaikovsky. They are rock and roll. They are music from 1960 on.
So who's our let's look at 2024, almost 2025. Who is our modern day Beatles?
Taylor Swift. Done.
No,
It's over.
But so the Beatles' lifespan was what? How many years?
7 years.
7.
Years. Okay, so
Well, recording like album wise, they were 6.
Taylor
but,
Swift
like,
has been around much longer than that. So is she still the Beatles? Just because she's.
But is Taylor Swift's music likely to be as influential of the future the way the Beatles were on music after them?
Yeah, because there was no really like rock and roll was like Elvis and like Buddy Holly, but like and Richie Valens and the Big Bopper, but like the Beatles like made it where everybody I don't know. It's the Beatles, man.
And see, that's the thing.
It's hard to describe what the Beatles are, you know.
If you hear a Beatles song, you know it's the Beatles. If I hear a Taylor Swift song, I can't tell if that's Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter or Selena Gomez.
I didn't know, Steve. I just talked about Christmas Tree song or Christmas Tree Farm. I had no idea it was Taylor Swift, and I was like, "What a great song about Christmas!" No idea it was her.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of That's kind of like my question is why, in your guys' opinion, what is it that allows the Beatles to transcend? I mean, what? 40-something years, more than that. Why do you feel like they were able to make the transcend into another realm of music versus not a rival band, but one of their other contemporaries?
Well, they did a lot of things that nobody ever did. For one thing,
right?
It was a perfect storm of the right time, place, people. And time is the key word there. I mean, there wasn't much before them that was rock and roll.
But I think what he's saying is what makes them definitive, because the first is not always the best. But in this case,
yeah, because why aren't the Hollies or the Buffalo Springfield or the Rolling Stones?
The way they crafted their songs.
You know what I mean? Like.
George Martin they didn't have a George Martin.
Same shelf life. They were all short, you know.
Well, they had a very unique evolution, and they also chose to stop touring. You know, they stopped.
They had to,
through.
Though.
Yeah,
they had to.
True, but but then you look at the Rolling Stones, who are still probably touring this year. They've never stopped, and Beatles albums, for the most part, are all unique. Stones, not that they're a lesser band in any, I'm not trying to get to that, but a lot of their albums can sound the same to me.
Yeah, what Justin posted in the chat was good. They did different genres. It wasn't the same rehashed thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And Justin's like a Rolling Stone guy, and so is Danny.
I think so.
Oh, did I don't know if he's. I couldn't see if Justin said that, but I mean,
okay.
Stones are like bluesier. They're raw. They're more like a blues band that you would see like at a bar. While I mean, the Beatles started out that way, but then they evolved into something that created multiple genres. Well, the Rolling Stones created or influenced better blues bands. I don't know if that's a way to say it correctly, but the Beatles went and made people go to different spots of rock and roll, while the Stones just kind of kept you in the blues. And so, yeah, I mean, there are bands that are influenced by the Stones that are great blues bands, but the Beatles, and like, you hear even like guys like Jason Isbell that are country guys, or you hear, even like, look what happened with Danger Mouse and the Black Album from Jay-Z. Like, Danger Mouse used the White Album to mix with Jay-Z to make
the Gray album.
Like, and honestly, like, that's the best way in my mind to hear that record is the Gray Album, because the shit that the Beatles did on that record could be used, and it was done right. I don't know. That's how I feel about them, and I think that's why they're more than the Stones. And that's why they're more than Zeppelin, because Zeppelin is like a better blues and jazz like band than anybody else. Like, Zeppelin is like pretty much the greatest blues band of all time. But the Beatles are just the greatest band of all time.
Well, there were so many song genres wrapped into an album. Even certain songs have multiple genres wrapped up into one song, right? But so many different instruments were used as well that were never used in rock before. They used the studio sounds. They used the studio itself as an instrument. I think that no bands did before. George Martin, I think, was a huge help to them with helping them get the sounds out of their heads and on tape. So there was all those type things, I think, that went into their whole big pie.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. George Martin was a classical conductor, like producer, and that's, I think, the sound I think that he heard was the stuff that he could have done. And then you bring like the Eastern sounds of like when George brought the sitar, like that's crazy on some of those songs that they have. Sorry, Jamal. I didn't mean to like.
Yeah, they took a lot of chances and did those things too. And they could put that stuff down, and they thought it was cool. But how were they to know that everybody else would think it was great as well? Right? I mean,
right. I mean, think about us.
They didn't know what they were doing. They just did it.
We're all hearing this stuff like years later.
And it still blows people's minds now.
Right. I couldn't imagine what it was like in 1967. Like
yeah,
holy shit. Like,
that would be wild.
Yeah, I say it goes back to my initial point of it was the perfect storm of time, place, and people. That if you take Paul McCartney out of there, or if you take John Lennon out of there, or George or Ringo, either one, you might not have had the exact trajectory of creativity all at once. And they all worked together when they were in cohesion. They definitely had their issues, but when they were working all in sync, I mean, it was a thing of beauty.
Did you say insane?
Are there any other bands in existence since then that could be universally praised like that? I mean, not subjectively, because subjectively, I can list some of my personal.
I don't think so, because after all that, it's all been done. So it's basically everybody since then. If you combine Beatles, Zeppelin, and maybe Stones too, it's already been done. What else are you going to do?
At least not for rock music. Maybe if you go into the hip hop realm, and you're
right,
then you've got like your Tupacs and your Biggies that are still influencing people today.
But in the rock genre, classic rock genre, I mean, what else can you do?
I was like, Jamal, what would you say? Like, what is the like when it comes to like R&B and hip hop? Like I would always think like Tribe or like Wu-Tang, like the group of like rappers.
The group. Ooh.
That's how I would think. Like maybe like the group that would like keep, like they were the ones and everybody kind of emulated. Like single people, I don't know, like Steve, like you were saying, like Tupac and Biggie and all that stuff. But like that would be like if like Frank Sinatra, like
that would be your Elvis and your Jimi Hendrix, kind of your individual guys. But I mean, like what you said,
like to me, like Wu-Tang Clan,
that's the first one that comes to mind for me.
So if you went by, I guess like that metric, I did have one other question before I answer that. Was I had never heard of Rolling Stones being mentioned in the category of being a blues type of band.
Really?
I mean, I never have. I don't listen to them, super close like that. But I had never heard of them being mentioned in the same realm of a blues, in the blues genre, at all. So that's new. That's new to me. That's pretty interesting. But it kind of makes me want to go listen to their entire catalog and see if falls in that realm. But I've never heard of that.
But they also had the death of Brian Jones, which impacted their musical journey as well.
Okay.
Young. I mean, that was early in their evolution that they lost Brian Jones.
But he's still. I mean, Keith still writes a really good blues riff. Like that's kind of his thing.
Any Mick Taylor era albums would be great for blues rock listening. Sticky Fingers comes to mind, I would say. Yeah. Jamal, if you want to listen, pick that up.
Can You Hear Me Knocking? Yeah, that's off Sticky Fingers, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm writing this down. By the way. I need to.
Maybe Steve could put it in the chat. Recommended listening.
I was like, Jamal, like honestly, like I never thought that because I was just never a big Stones person.
Go with His Majesty's Satanic Service. Is that?
Yeah, because Steve, that's the stuff I like. I like She's a Rainbow.
She's a Rainbow. Great
That's
song.
my favorite song.
Yeah.
That's my Paint It Black and She's a Rainbow are my two favorite songs by Rolling Stones. And I know that's not like the Rolling Stones. That's like cherry picking like shit that I like.
Okay. Yeah, this is very interesting to me. I've never heard them put in that particular genre, or even like the Beatles really being put in that. I always considered them. I heard of them being straight rock and roll, and I know like their sound definitely matured and evolved every album, which I really respect. And I think like to that particular point though, some of the great I think in my opinion what makes them transcend all that is the fact that they were able to evolve their sound and then be successful at it every time. Like nothing, no two albums. It probably was. I don't know. You guys, it probably sounded the same. So there was the evolution in their sound, and they were successful at it. And I think a lot
every
of
album advanced so much so quickly.
Right. Okay.
It's one of the cool things about the British invasion of the 60s was that you had these young kids all playing in rock bands who were influenced by blues guitarists, and they all had jazz drummers because there was no rock and roll before. So that was like the organic beginnings of all these bands of the Who and the Beatles and Zeppelin.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, it was all stolen. It was, you know what I mean? It was all stolen by like.
And each individual
black
band
music, like black music. That's what it was stolen from.
Yeah,
like you think about Zeppelin, like Jesus, when the levee breaks, that legit stole
Willie Dixon stuff. Yeah,
but I mean, they just made it.
Cool.
You could put, to be fair, you could put John Bonham in any place in the world to play drums, and he would have fucking made it sound awesome. So. I'll die on that hill.
I don't consider Beatles even a blues-based band. I mean, maybe in the very
early
Beatles,
beginning,
early
Beatles.
That's what I'm talking about. Is the beginning,
very early Beatles.
But
like
it didn't take long for them to get out of that.
Hold your hand.
Each of those bands, though, they took those blues and jazz origins or influences and went in an entirely different direction, which is something that I think is really cool about the British explosion there.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
that's very compelling. That's very compelling. I'm about to look into that. To your question though, I think if you have to look at, if you went the R&B route, it's not like it's maybe not as straightforward, but you got to look at like the lineage of what, in my opinion, of what transcends the genre. So that would be somebody like a Raphael Sadiq, from Tony Tone, or a Teddy Riley, who created the New Jack Swing, and at the same time, found and then signed Pharrell Williams and Chad Hugo for the Neptunes, and then look at what the Neptunes did for their sound in their region, and how that literally transcends from that goes all the way back to the 80s, to the 90s, to the 2000s, to now even. So you look at Raphael Sadiq and you look at Babyface, another R&B legend who has hits upon hits upon hits, who's written for everybody from every genre and transcended and like taken that particular style or whatnot, gave it to the artist, and then allowed them to blossom and then move into other arena, like Tony Braxton, Keith Sweat, Aaron Hall, R. Kelly. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So like, it's in my opinion, like that's how I see transcending figures in that particular genre. Just like the lineage and what they created and how it was able to evolve since then. Hell, even Pink,
Jamal,
Pink is off of that.
Curious. I'm curious though. Do you think like Stevie and like Lionel and like, because like with the Beatles, it's like Jesus. The last time they had a record was 1970. But do you think like somebody like Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, like
I would throw Prince out there here.
Prince is, I put Prince is like I don't know why I said she. Prince is like just like a hybrid though of like, because he played the guitar like a motherfucker. But I was just curious, Jamal, like what would be like the Omega, like the Ground Zero, the Rosetta Stone, like the Beatles, like it inspired everybody. You know what I mean? Like, and if they didn't, they offshooted it.
That I would bring it down to probably like, you go hip hop, it'd be like 3 groups. It'd be like Wu-Tang, NWA, Tribe Called Quest.
Okay. And like R&B, what would you say? Like, I mean, I agree, because I think those guys are great. not
You talking
even
about
but like
just?
like group or like singers and stuff. Like
I would
I mean,
say
Jackson
everybody.
5,
Yeah. I would say I say the DeBarges. I think the DeBarges their influence on neo soul and what happened in that genre like is far underrated. So like and I'd say like the DeBarges. I would say, oh man, it's been so long. Like R&B groups don't exist like that anymore.
What about like late stage Temptations, where you get into like
yeah,
Papa was the Rolling Stone era?
Uh
That
like
was
those
like,
cats from the '60s. Like
yeah,
I mean, I was just thinking like Motown. Like
oh well, yeah, I mean, yeah. You can. I wasn't thinking label wise, but yeah, Motown is it. Motown and Stax Records with Isaac Hayes and that whole crew. Absolutely, like those the between those two to me, like they spawned everything from what you saw from the funk to neo soul to every subgenre in that you have in R&B now, and they sample it every from down from the words Marvin Gaye all the way down. So if I had to go there, then I would definitely say like Motown would be it would be to me would be like the pinnacle, just because they had such a wide array of talent in every genre. Everybody is off of that tree that I could think of like right now.
You know what?
Yeah, it makes
What's interesting, I think,
sense.
like what's interesting about what Jamal's saying, it just I don't know why this is interesting to me, but so we're talking groups, but he's talking mostly individuals, right? So I mean,
But
I don't know,
Motown
that
really
just
was individuals. Like
yeah, that's what I mean. That's interesting to me, just that in itself. Why is that? Right? Why is not more?
I think
I mean, you have
why isn't rock
Temptations,
more
like-
individuals? Why isn't rock more individuals? Or why isn't rap and R&B more groups that were
Because
influential?
I think they were, but they ended up. How many of those? I can't speak to that genre, but I know like in hip hop, how many of those groups are even still groups? Like they in this particular instance, Wu-Tang is the only one that's even still like each other.
Still together, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and unfortunately,
Well,
like
in the
with
end, the
Tribe,
Beatles didn't like each other.
Fife Dog is dead, so it's like
Fife is gone. And you still have Busta Rhymes and you still have Q-Tip, who's a legendary producer in his own right. But
yeah.
off
And
of that,
I will say, Busta's stuff with those guys, some of my favorite Busta Rhymes raps. They're so good.
Well, to be fair on the Beatles stuff, I mean, Lennon and McCartney didn't really like each other in the end that much, anyway. So, right?
But how many?
And
but
they
were
were
still
together
able.
7 years, so
Yeah,
they didn't last very long together. So,
and Wu-Tang's been since what, like
1992.
Yeah.
So you look at, and the reason why I have to put them at the pinnacle is like, even though they're not my favorite, you have to put them at the pinnacle just because of what they brought. You're sampling kung fu flicks, the sound, everything that they brought from the sound to 36 chambers, everything that these individuals brought, especially 9 people in a group, actually 10 people in a group, and what they all brought. And you could see like, I mean, I'm sure somebody could wiki and just see like every other group that they brought underneath them and what they were able to achieve. Like, as far as like the skits and everything that was put in the music, that wasn't happening back in the 90s. And so like a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of rap groups that you probably never heard of, they got many members. I copied the same thing, and they weren't nearly as successful because this particular, group of rappers was, none of them sounded alike, and all of them were dope. So they really set the blueprint.
I'm sorry, I mean to cut me out, but like I will say this, like without Wu-Tang, like I mean, think about like I don't they branched off into like R&B with like ODB with Mariah Carey, and like the stuff
Oh yeah,
that they touched was huge. It's
and
amazing like what they touched. And that's the only reason I ever brought them up is just because they touched a lot, and that's kind of what the Beatles did. Like they kind of touched different genres, and that was all. Because
they
like I loved NWA, but like you have 3 great rappers out of that group, but really your main person that kind of like touched everything was Dre.
right, but the group wasn't gonna touch every genre. I agree. I mean, you had Method Man and Mary J. Blige, you had ODB and Mariah Carey. You had Donna Summer and Ghostface, and you had there's a ton of them, and I would consider them the forefathers of like what helped integrate R&B and hip hop, maybe to the detriment of both genres because it became very intertwined. But what they did and how they were able to transcend their sound from 92 to even now to right now is incredible. Like you'll never see another hip hop group have a run and extend into so many other areas, like in other genres of music that you see these guys in. They've had Slash on records, they've had David Bowie on records, like they've had all kinds of things. Like so
They have their own TV show on Hulu,
and they have their own TV show. They had their own cartoon. They had their own movies. So
like the Beatles. That's what I mean. Like I feel like they're like the Beatles. Like they legit have an entire. It's like 3 or 4 seasons on Hulu of a TV show. Like it's their story. It's awesome. It's such a good show.
Man, you had to be there. The 90s was something else, man. You had to be there. The purple tape, they were responsible for, and I'll look at it in milestones, but they were responsible for so many milestones. I had an opportunity to be in on the interview where they interviewed Steve Lobel, the guy that signed them to their original deal. And the story behind how they got signed is even crazy. Like he met RZA at the label, and then he wasn't going to sign them, and then some random intern came in and was like, "Oh, that record's the shit." And then Steve Lobel signed him to $1 million deal just off of the intern. Come to find out, the intern was paid by RZA. RZA paid him $50 to come in and say, "Hey, look, tell him Tom's the shit."
Hey, that's the best way to do it, man.
and he never heard from that intern again. Never heard, but that right there is insane into itself.
He's playing the game, yeah.
And so you look at what they're responsible for as far as the gritty sound and I mean their sound today. I can name 7 producers off the top that are top 5 producers right now that have taken from their sound from the 90s. And they're still using it today. And I'm not saying like they're biting his style, but I'm saying like that particular production style. So that's how I measure, like the impact on the genre, like is how is that being impacted today? And there's like in kids today, I'm 44, but kids that don't understand like, the lineage of where it goes back to. So they have to be them Outkast and NWA, in my opinion.
Well,
just for
it's crazy because you say like these kids today, it's like Nirvana t-shirts are like it's like having a Gap shirt.
right.
Well, this leads.
But never heard a Nirvana song.
That's what I'm saying. Like people wearing the Nirvana shirts, ask them to name a song off of In Utero.
When I wear my Nirvana shirt, they look at me like I'm a creep. Like I'm like, dude, I go, I had this shirt before you were born.
Before you were born.
This is a great segue, guys, into the final topic of the night, which is how do we pass our love of personal genres, rock, grunge, hip hop, whatever, onto our kids and grandkids in this current age of streaming, which I personally find
I gotta go get more.
Extremely difficult. My kids are 8 and 10, and getting them to turn on to any sort of music that I am pushing on them or trying to educate them on, they want nothing to do with it. We don't really have the I've got a whole wall of CDs behind me and vinyl over here, but they have no way to play that upstairs. Yeah, they have their ways of streaming, but if I hand them a Pink Floyd CD, they're going to be like, "Oh, cool, little mini Frisbee."
I think it has to be organic. Put yourself back at that age. I mean, were you listening to your parents' stuff because they were forcing it on you, or because you were discovering it yourself? I guess.
Well, right about 10 was when I started to actually like the music my dad was listening to.
Sure.
This was kind of the transition point. I have learned through others in the industry. My son is a theater performer. Apparently, they don't really listen to much music.
Go lay down.
And that's something I've learned, that in their downtime, they're not big on listening to albums and listening to music and gaining new. Because when they're performing or rehearsing and studying for that, they're so into music. They're like, I want to do something else, which I can understand. So that's okay. I got a daughter. I'll throw all the music on her. She can be the rocker.
I think you gotta be playing it. You have to be singing along with it. You have to be really digging it. And maybe when they see that, they might think, oh, okay. Yeah, maybe this stuff is okay. Maybe
there are certain songs from certain groups that they do like. Abby still asks for the Mean Teacher song, another brick in the wall. So
right.
Yeah, I'll oblige whenever she asks for it. So I'll build off that.
So I'll just go off of my personal experience. So my mom will listen to country music, driving me to school or to the store, whatever. So when I was that age, that's what I was influenced by. And then my dad was Motown, Van Morrison, probably right around the 67 mark that you guys started with. But anyway, so that's what I was forced to listen to in the vehicle and at home. So I think organically I discovered the bands that truly influenced me through friends and cousins and just going to local record shops. So again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I think they're going to have to discover these classic bands themselves as opposed to being forced, because while I do like Van Morrison, Motown, all of that, that's not my that's not what I would classify my taste as. Yes, it's great. Yes, it's something I come back to semi-frequently, but the pinnacle sound is something that I found myself.
But something you just touched on is that you discovered by going to record shops and stuff.
Yeah.
And nowadays, though, they're getting their new music by whatever Spotify tells them is next on the playlist.
Yeah. Yep.
TikTok.
And Rick Beato actually just did an episode on that. Is it organic anymore? Yeah, like you said, is it an algorithm telling you what?
If Capitol Records is paying to tell, hey, Spotify, this is the next song and all playlists from here on out.
And what music are you missing out on because the algorithm isn't feeding it to you?
Right.
I think you're gonna like
That's
it.
very true. Very
I
true.
will say it's interesting to watch younger kids with music. My nephew, he's 5, but he came up to our house once and he was like 2 or so, and I have like big stack speakers, and this is my parents from like the 80s and the vinyl records, and like I played him vinyl, and he like walked up to it and then he's like hugging it. Like it was weird to him that it wasn't coming out of like a little black box. It was coming out of like, it was something like his height, and he felt it, and he And it was interesting to see that because that's to me, like, music was always there. It's a weird thing to like have to like push music on somebody because music's always been in my life. I could still see my parents, and I mean, it's my record player that's sitting in my house right now. I could still see it at the end of the the living room and getting yelled at by my parents saying, "Don't run around because you're going to jump the record and you're going to skip it." And then it was records and it was tapes and then CDs, and I collected everything. And I mean, I'm fine with digital music because I love Apple. It takes all the stuff on my computer and puts it on my phone, and I've spent a lot of money on music, and I go to shows, and I'm not screwing over anybody. The small artists, I'm sorry, I'm not 22 anymore. I can't go to their shows. It sucks. But I just can't. I can't go to their show. I used to go to so many cool shows back in the day. I mean, I saw the Arctic Monkeys play in front of 1,000 people, and now they're one of the biggest bands. I get
what you're saying with the Apple, and they're great from our perspective of playlist curation, and
but I
want to take
that.
my music and I want to make my playlist of my music, and I'm going to do that. It's definitely though a hindrance when it comes to the younger generations of
in my kid, I see him already doing it. Like when I say Alexa play, he turns and looks for the black box. And it's Christmas time, and I just got my turntable fixed. So we don't have a lot of Christmas records, so I have to wait until like January to actually like play, some shit for my kid. And I don't know, like Marissa's parents were like my parents' age, but like she's 10 years younger, and she was taught like, hey, this is good music, and she has her own stuff, but she still has a background of the classic rock. And I don't know, I mean, I hope my kid's cool. Like, honestly, I don't care. Like, the biggest thing I've always thought about him was it'd be nice if he like played instruments over his dad. But I think he's gonna know a lot of good stuff, and I think it's to the parents, man. They're gonna listen to some bullshit that you're not gonna want to like. Like, I know my niece and nephew, they're 12 and 13, Steve, and they like stuff. I already know it because I read about it, and so I've heard it. Like, it's not like nobody knows who Olivia Rodrigo is. Like, they're not the only people that know who Olivia Rodrigo is. You know what I mean? Like,
what I was trying to say though is that I think what the next generations are going to miss is the hand-me-down aspect of things. Like Alan and I,
maybe
Alan and I actually were given records and listened to them on the same record player at our grandmother's house. That's not going to happen, and not for the lack of material, but I mean, my kids don't have a CD player at the moment. There's no CD player in the car. Unless something happens with a physical media, unless I go find them a CD player to put in their room. I guess I could do that, but that would be out of the norm. So there's that hand me down.
Steve,
I can't hand you down my Spotify playlist.
But I am out of the norm. I know my kid's gonna like I will play records in front of them, and that's just how it's gonna be.
Do kids have the patience to listen to a complete album, or are they in the TikTok realm?
Oh no, they don't. But I mean, neither did I at 10 years old either. I mean, that's something that.
No, I mean, nobody does. I mean, the first time I really thought music was a thing, and I said it in my episode, was I knew all my parents' stuff. I listened to Zeppelin, I listened to the Beatles and everything. And I knew songs and singles and everything. I didn't know albums until I heard the riff from Nevermind, or from Smells Like Teen Spirit, when I was 11 years old, which is insane if you think about what you were at 11 years old, or you think about an 11-year-old kid now. I was 11 and it changed my life. Like that music with Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, and like they changed my life. I mean, I've spent thousands of dollars. I've traveled to go see a band, like that still plays the same song that I was 11 years old. They still play the same song. But that band brought me to so many other bands and so many other shows and so many people I've met. And I think the people aspect of music was always going to be there. I think the communal part of it is always going to be there. Whether it's going to be shitty, like techno press a button stuff, I don't know. But I think the communal aspect will always be there.
I agree. I think has to be organic. Like the two earliest memories that I have were when Hammer You Can't Touch This came out and Dr. Dre Let Me Ride came out. And speaking of bands or that are the pinnacle, Parliament Funkadelic has been sampled more than any other group of all time. And so when I heard Let Me Ride, I was like, oh man, this record is the shit, Mom. And my mom was like, shut up. Let me play this for you. And broke out Parliament Funkadelic and played, Swing Down, Sweet Chair. And that blew my mind. And then when, MC Hammer You Can't Touch This came out, it's just, is literally super freak. And so I was like, what? They stole something? Like, I thought they stole it. So, that's how I discovered Rick James and Parliament Funkadelic. That's how I discovered. From there, I discovered Bootsy Collins, played and then from there I discovered, name it after that, then I found out, reading the credits. That's why I even became an engineer, was reading the credits, because I wanted to know what the engineer did. So yeah, I agree. It's definitely something organic. I don't know how, but like, my nephew was in the other room and he was playing MF Doom. And I was like, you're 15. How did you come across MF Doom? I'm just curious. And he's like, well, I heard such and such. And then, he played back. And then, so I just discovered him and he came up on Spotify. Shout out to the algorithm. So, the in a sense, yeah, it is organic, and then for me, it was kind of a proud moment because I was like, well, let me give you some background on MF Doom and where he came from and whatnot. And so from there, he discovered Jay Dilla. From there, he discovered a tribe, so I agree that a lot of it is organic, and I kind of not push him in the direction or whatever because he sees me mixing music, but, I think it's that curiosity to learn, to dig deeper, to see where the origin or where it came from or what the origin of it was. And so to me, that's kind of the exciting part. That's why when you say that, these bands were considered in some aspects blues bands, well, now I'm intrigued because I want to know what it is about that kind of brought them there. So I don't think it's lost. I just think that, for him, using him as the example would be like his attention span and to understand, where it came from. Like the Billie Eilish record, like a couple years ago, I forgot the name of the group or whatever, but they named the song Billie Irish, but they sampled a whole nother record, which sampled another record, which sampled Donna Karan. So, like in getting to the bottom of that and then in presenting that to him, then he gets to see, oh, okay, where all this other stuff comes from. So for me, I think it's definitely organic, but you have to have a curiosity for it. And then, to understand the origin of where this stuff or where the music comes from. And, that's just my take on it. But
Jamal, they're not stealing. It's interpolating.
Interpolation. Yes. Interpolation. He interpolated that whole that royalty check that Rick James, that's for sure. But yeah, so it's I love it. Like I love this conversation because for me it's an opportunity to deep dive into something that I wouldn't normally listen to. And then to see what, the influences are across the board, but, maybe it's just the mix engineer and me talking to see how it all ties together and how people, take different aspects of it. And, but yeah, I definitely do. I think it's something organic, that they just have to have the curiosity and the wanting to know, my nephew says something stupid and he's like, oh, this is original. I was like, no, you're dumb. Let me show you where it came from. And, So that's just my take on it, though.
I love hearing the interviews where Dave Grohl says that Smells Like Teen Spirit was straight pulled from the Gap Band.
Right. I was just thinking about that. That kind of blew my mind. He's like, yeah. But now that I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, he absolutely took that from the Gap Band.
Think about that. Like he's supposed to just be like this, rock drummer, and he's taking it from those guys. Like it comes from everything. I don't know. The kids of today, maybe because I'm an old dad, that I'm not gonna let this shit, like all these young bucks, like give a shit like what they do with their kids. But I'm just gonna be old school with my music with him and my kid. And if he likes it, great. Honestly, what I hope he listens to all this new stuff, and then he learns how to play, and then he's the one who 100 years from now changes rock or something, just for shits.
On that note, guys, I really got to close up shop here. The
3 hours. That's
yeah,
impressive.
it's 1:30 here, but it's been a pleasure talking with everyone, and thank you guys for joining. Really do appreciate it.
Oh
yes. Yeah. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me.
Merry Christmas, and
Merry Christmas. See you guys.
Happy New Year.
See y'all later.